Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is Anash Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SP Foundation Wiki. This episode is going to be later than I wanted it to because I was having issues at home with my internet. We have a new router now, and we're going to be getting faster internet next week. But for now, I'm recording somewhere else, and I should be home again later. So, I'm still going to try to have this Friday's episode happen, but I'm looking to have this video come out before that. There's going to be if I can pull it off, there's going to be two of these this week, and if I can't, there's just going to be this one. Hopefully, I can do both. So we're going to be starting with Living with Werewolves and aiming to end at the HMS Tiresias. So let's see what it's like living with werewolves. Also, I was asked on the last video why I don't just hit the random button and read 5 random entries, and the answer I gave on the comment was that I tried that once and it gave me 2 back to back that I had already read, and at the time I had only read like 300 of them out of 4,000, and now I'm halfway through the 1200s out of 7,000. So not sure how much of a problem it would be, but also for the sake of organization and like keeping track of which ones I've actually done, I'd rather not do that. If there are other people who wish I was just hitting the random button, I'm sorry, but because of how my brain and organization works, I will not be doing that. So, living with werewolves. Apparently, it's neutralized, but was formerly safe. And the special containment procedures used to say, SCP-1241 is to be overwritten with a localized signal produced by transmission stations 1241A and B, broadcasting a pre-recorded series of television programs. A cover story regarding the production of 1241 by a local studio has been circulated in case of containment failure. In order to continually monitor the content of 1241, an apparatus is to be maintained to isolate and record it. Please refer to Document B for further information. Update. As of August the 9th, 2011, 1241 has no active containment procedures. A story describing the bankruptcy of the responsible party referenced in a previously released cover story has been released. The area is to be continually observed for any signs which could indicate a recommencement of activity. Description prior to October the 23rd of 2011. SCP-1241 is a television broadcast transmitted in a roughly 8 by 8 kilometer area in redacted Texas, USA. The program manifests every week on Tuesday at, I want to say that's 11:30 at night, for an average of 20 minutes. Analysis of the signal has revealed it to be inconsistent with standard television frequencies, and attempted replications of the broadcast outside of the original area have failed to transmit it coherently. It is not normally possible for standard televisions to coherently play signals of 1241's frequency or strength. SCP-1241 resembles a television program of the situational comedy genre, a sitcom. The broadcast consists of multiple episodes depicting the domestic life of a middle-aged human male and a group of 4 to 8 humanoid canids who evidently share an apartment accommodation in Los Angeles, California, USA. So, 15 episodes at the time of neutralization. The name of the aforementioned man is given as Lad. Each episode possesses the same opening sequence, roughly 30 seconds of music with lyrics sung by an adult human female describing the aforementioned premise, which gives a list of cast members and other individuals involved in productions, as well as giving the title of SCP-1241 as Living with Lupes. None of the named people or the individual portraying the character of Lad have been successfully identified. The majority of the names are associated with persons not working in an entertainment-related career. For a detailed transcription of the names and lyrics provided in the song opening, please refer to Document C. The behavior of the entities featured in 1241 has inconsistently varied between typical canine and more humanoid behavior with each episode. Summarize Document A. The following is a selection of notable examples of 1241. Episode 1, Hemlock. Summary. The Lad character is introduced, shown shopping in a retail store. The character encounters Martin Wilkinson, one of the canid organisms. Dialogue between the two characters then ensues, during which the Lad character mentions that he's looking for a residence. The Martin character states that he's renting a room in an apartment complex, but is looking for a roommate. Upon later accepting the offer made by Martin after some deliberation and arriving at the complex, the Martin character reveals that the remaining canid entities are also living in the residence. The episode ends with a close shot of Lad displaying shop. Additional notes: excerpt of dialogue between Lad and Martin. I had a cousin who was a talking hamster. Oh, really? Where is he now? Dead. He joined the IRA and someone ate him. Episode 3, Dog Eat Dog World. Summary follows several attempts made by the Martin character to seek employment after resigning from an office job as a result of a younger individual being promoted to a higher paid position for the third time this year. The character subsequently briefly gains a job in several low-skill areas including reception, a janitorial position, and clerical duties in a public library. During the first 15 minutes, the character is dismissed from each for various reasons, including repeatedly arriving late, ineptitude, and consuming a live chicken in front of several children. Episode 14, Big Wolf Blowing Down. Summary follows the main characters coping with an unnamed hurricane predicted to affect their area of residence. The latter half of the episode focuses on their behavior while made to remain inside due to the event. Notably, the video during this episode is blurred, or during this period is blurred and shaky, and the majority of the dialogue does not appear to relate to the given premise, see below, instead describing a device of undisclosed function which appears to be at risk of becoming damaged. Additional notes, excerpt of dialogue between Lad and an unnamed canine character referred to here as unnamed. Please don't let it break. I won't. It's too important to break. It's been so nice being able to think. I know, I won't let it break. I'll fix it somehow, I promise. I suppose I should just enjoy the moment before I have to go back. At least it gave me these moments. I'll always have that. Episode 15, Untitled, the opening sequence was not present. Summary, 19 minutes and 32 seconds of footage depicting two malnourished domestic dogs, one Dalmatian and one Great Dane, lying down in a cage. The episode terminated at 22:59 with little change in the animal's activity, camera position, or camera angle throughout. Incident 1. On May 2nd, 2011, 1241 failed to be detected at its regular time. It was not found to be active in the subsequent 2 weeks. On May 17th, a rented space in Blank, Canada was investigated by its landlord following a failure of the individual renting it one blank blank to make regular payment. Due to the items discovered within the residence, follow-up inquiry was later made by Foundation personnel after the landlord attempted to contact local authorities. The contents of the locale were found to be 4 large dog crates, the remains of 6 dogs of various breeds, and a human subject, later identified as Mr. Blank, all showing damage consistent with roughly 2 weeks of decomposition and partial consumption varying between specimens. Electronic equipment, primarily consisting of that used in recording and broadcasting, including a Panasonic brand video camera, non-functioning, a tripod stand, a playback video monitor, non-functioning, a boom operator and VHS recorder/player labeling outgoing episodes, non-functioning. A surviving male Weimaraner specimen, displaying signs of severe deformity and malnutrition. The subject expired within an hour of being removed from the locale despite attempted medical intervention. An autopsy was carried out shortly after revealed that part of its skeleton had been replaced with bones of a distinctly humanoid structure, primarily around its jaw, skull, and legs. SCP-1241 was declared neutralized on August the 9th, 2011. So it sounds like this dude was turning dogs into werewolves and trying to film a sitcom in Canada about it? Weird. Doppelganger virus. It's Euclid. SCP-1242 is to be contained in 2 adjoining rooms measuring 2 by 2 by 3 meters, capable of sustaining quarantine for Category A, UN 2814 Biohazard. The room should be separated by an airlock. All access to subject is to be limited to a single entry point equipped with remote handling, clean room, decontamination, and quarantine facilities. Remote handling is to be used when interacting with 1242 whenever possible. Level A biohazard suits are required for all non-test subjects physically interacting with 1242. Nutritional needs are human normal and should be met using standard quarantine protocols. Waste material should be treated as Category A UN 2814 Biohazard. Waste may be disposed of only after heat sterilization and storage for a period of no less than 14 days to ensure success of the sterilization procedures. Subject is on a strict suicide watch, it used to say, and is not allowed any object or material that will facilitate self-harm, but now says, due to subject's proven capacity for self-harm, all requests made by subject must be submitted to the site director. Okay. SCP-1242 is an adolescent Caucasian human male 137 centimeters in height, weighing 41 kilograms. Subject communicates primarily in English, is intelligent, and generally cooperative with Foundation personnel. Subject exudes a retroviral agent, hereafter referred to as 1, from all bodily orifices and glands. 1 is 99.9% infectious when transmitted by direct contact through skin contact, and 100% infectious when transmitted by direct contact through ingestion. 1 has been shown to be infectious to varying degrees through indirect contact for up to 14 days on average, with the longest recorded period between viral emission and infection being approximately 26 days. 1 contains an unusually large amount of fragmented genetic material and acts directly on the genetic and cellular level. temporarily reverting each individual cell to the stem cell stage through an unknown process before remaking it as a new cell. Individuals infected are to be classified as 1A and quarantined immediately. Infection is followed by an incubation period of 6 hours, after which one symptoms begin to manifest. At 6 hours, 1A experience acute pain in joints, fever ranging from 38 to 40 degrees Celsius, respiratory difficulty, cardiac arrhythmia, and cyanotic extremities. One, it ceases to be infectious at this time. At 8 hours, subjects in this stage indicate that the pain is now global to the body and intense. Symptoms diverge in this stage depending on the initial mass of the infected individual. I don't know why I stumbled over those two words. There is currently no data on individuals exactly matching the mass of 1242. However, it has been noted that symptoms beyond this point are significantly less severe for individuals within 10 kilograms of 40 kilograms, give or take. 1A that are larger in mass than 1242 began experiencing violent emesis, diarrhea, and perspiration beyond the levels associated with fever temperatures. Waste produced in this manner is composed of tissue types throughout the body. Subjects begin to gradually decrease in mass and physical size. Instances larger in mass than 1242 have an estimated 43% survival rate at this stage. 1A that are smaller in mass than 1242 begin bloating and swelling and display a voracious appetite with a preference for materials high in protein. Instances of 1A that are smaller in mass than 1242 have an estimated 6% total survival rate of this stage without medical intervention. It is unknown whether such individuals could survive the full run of the infection without medical intervention. At 9 hours, symptoms accelerate as subject rapidly alters to more closely match the mass of 1242. All identifying characteristics native to race are eliminated and subject's body begins restructuring to achieve the end-stage result. Females have a significantly higher chance of dying due to complications associated with restructuring of primary reproductive systems at this stage. Larger instances experience a continuation of emesis and diarrhea, skeletal fracturing and restructuring, and sloughing off of skin and hair. Instances in this stage are prone to organ failure from compression, bursting, and dehydration. Hydration can increase survival rates, but not substantially. Smaller instances experience rapid growth with associated internal lacerations and stress fractures from sudden growth of skeletal structure. It has been determined that continued nutritional supplementation substantially improves chances of survival at this stage for smaller instances, boosting survival chances from 4% to 32%. At 10 hours, subject's body structure now closely resembles 1242. Symptoms converge and abate. One is once again infectious. At 11 hours, all symptoms abate. Subject is now visually indistinguishable from 1242 and is designated 2. 2 may be distinguished from 1242 only by testing. 2 do not produce 1 as a biological byproduct, carrying and transmitting it instead as an infectious blood-borne pathogen. In nearly all other respects, 2 are identical to 1242. Instances of 2 possess intelligence commensurate to that of 1242 and display a range of reactions and personality traits consistent with their non-depressive behaviors. Investigation into 2 neurochemistry reveals that instances levels of serotonin and dopamine are elevated by an average of 15% above human baseline. This results in instances of 2 generally behaving docilely and showing a heightened preference for tactile sensation. It is hypothesized that instances do not develop depressive behaviors displayed by 1242 due to an inability to experience strong negative emotion without an outside trigger. 2 have a drive to protect 1242, and in the pursuit of that goal will seek out and infect individuals to propagate more instances of 2. In the event of a direct threat to 1242, instances become extremely violent, lashing out at the perceived threat with any tools or weapons available, but will attack unarmed should they lack weapons. Autopsy of instances terminated while defending 1242 indicates that levels of serotonin and dopamine drop below baseline in response to the perceived threat, with a concurrent and equal elevation in levels of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and testosterone. Psychological evaluation shows that the individual instances continue to retain fragmented memories of their existence prior to infection, but do not display any personality traits inconsistent with 1242's non-depressive behavior. Comparison of EEGs taken before and after conversion reveals significant restructuring of the frontal lobes, which may contribute to this alteration of personality traits. SCP-1242 was discovered after the Foundation became aware of reports from the rural town blank blank describing identical male youths corresponding with reports of individuals disappearing. Subject was located in an outlying structure 1.2 kilometers outside of the town proper, surrounded by 24 instances of 2. Subject immediately warned Foundation personnel away, but made no attempt to escape. Agents Blank and Blank were both exposed to 1 in the course of interviewing the subject. Agent Blank recognized a potential biohazard and was able to communicate the necessary precautions before succumbing to infection. Containment teams eradicated all present instances of 2 and took 1242 into custody. The town was placed under quarantine until such time as a lack of infection was determined to exist. Class C amnestics were administered to the population, who were then relocated under a claim of eminent domain. The area of potential infection was then sterilized. 1242 has displayed bouts of chronic depression associated with post-traumatic stress disorder and long-term isolation. Subject avoids discussion of the onset of its condition and refuses to give its name. Its fingerprints do not match any on file. Addendum A. Reports of instances of 2 outside of Foundation control have been corroborated and neutralized on 5 separate dates. Instances have been located as far as 4,700 kilometers from the point of initial containment. Attempts to question 1242 about these instances have been met with escalation of depressive behavior and emotional withdrawal. Addendum B. Following Incident 1, instances of 2 will be actively sought out and destroyed with all expediency. Incident 1. Site director clearance only. Access granted. At some point in the 2000-somethings, 56 instances of 2 mounted an assault on Site Blank where 1242 was contained. They were armed with weapons ranging from small arms to explosive munitions made from commercially available ingredients. They displayed coordination and tactics at a level associated with a dedicated civilian militia training full-time for a sustained period. Initial incursion was minimal due to rapid response by perimeter teams and initiation of site lockdown. While initial casualties were low, casualties from infection of personnel by 1 were high. It is still unknown how instances were able to obtain weapons and locate 1242. They can probably sense it. Alright, relocation services, which is also Euclid. No methods of effectively containing 1243 have been developed as of the time of this writing. The prevention of public knowledge of 1243 is top priority and will be maintained through a number of web crawler programs designed to track down, delete, and record instances of the URL leading to 1. Foundation agents are undercover in several law enforcement agencies worldwide, especially those that handle missing persons cases, to find possible instances of individuals using 1243. There's a screenshot of it. Only personnel with a security clearance of 3/1243 are permitted to know the URL. To prevent any accidental spread of knowledge of it, personnel being transferred out of work on 1243 for any reason will be given Class A amnestics. As it is unknown how it gathers information from its users or those being targeted by it, testing is forbidden at this time. Description: SCP-1243 consists of 2 components designated 1 and 2. 1 is a web page with URL of something.something.something/something. To this date, the Foundation has been unable to trace this page to its server due to the site having an inconsistent IPv4 address. The method used to obscure its true IPv4 address is unknown. This web page consists of a black HTML color code #00000, background, a JPEG logo on the top center of the page reading blank relocation services, a text field labeled name, a return field labeled cost, a button labeled place order, and a counter labeled customer served. All of these elements are encoded using a very simple HTML. The page gives no instructions as to how to use these elements. Upon filling out the name field with either a name, alias, or a title of an individual, the cost field will return a value, usually in US dollars, but occasionally in other forms of currency, valuable goods, or, in several recorded instances, a relative or acquaintance of the user. It is unknown how the cost of an individual targeted in this fashion is determined, though high-interest, well-protected targets such as government officials will typically have an extremely high cost, making them unattainable to most users. Orders that the customer cannot afford will simply be denied. When the Place Order button is clicked, 3 events will occur. The price specified in the cost field will be removed from the user's possession, the individual named in the name field will appear in the vicinity of the user within a period of 12 to 72 hours, and the customer's served counter will increment by 1. The individual delivered to the purchaser will invariably be the one the purchaser meant to place an order for, even though no information other than the name, alias, or title of the individual was entered into the name field. General descriptions entered in the name field will result in a random individual matching those descriptions being delivered to the purchaser. Instances of 2 are entities which appear in the vicinity of individuals purchased, using 1 for the purpose of abducting such individuals. Subjects vary greatly in appearance, though they are usually described as humanoids whose features have been significantly altered by surgical or other invasive means. Instances of 2 have been observed entering buildings through doors inaccessible from the outside and, rarely, traveling through objects such as mirrors and television screens to reach their target. Physical violence has proven effective in stopping single instances of 2, though abduction events have never been prevented in this manner, as more instances will arrive to take their place. To this date, there have been no method of successfully preventing 2 from abducting those targeted by 1243. Despite the Foundation's best efforts, the number displayed by the customer service counter continues to increase at an alarming rate. The possibility of knowledge of 1243 being spread by outside sources is under consideration. Recovery. SCP-1243 was discovered following an FBI raid on a human trafficking ring somewhere in California. The victims of this ring were found to be linked to missing persons cases in a number of different states, all of which were known to be outside of the operating area of the criminal organization responsible for the ring. Additionally, the majority of the victims being abducted by entities similar to those later designated 2. The URL leading to 1 was recovered from the hard drive seized by the FBI during this raid. All information regarding 1243 was recovered from the FBI by MTF Iota 10, aka Damn Feds. Both the victims of the ring and its perpetrators were given Class B amnestics with false memories implanted. Incident A. On the date of something, several instances of 2 appeared in Redacted, the location where maintenance of 1243 was being performed. By the time site security could respond, 2 had abducted 4 researchers involved with 1243. At this time, information on several other SCP items is considered compromised, including blank blank blank. As the customer serve counter did not increment, it is currently assumed that 1243 acted of its own volition in a defensive manner. Revision of the special containment procedures is pending at this time. Okay then. Universal stopwatch. Does it make the universal stop? I mean the universe. Well, it's safe, but that's because it's a stopwatch. It used to say it's currently contained in a lockbox, and in a lockbox blank and site somewhere. Now it says SCP-1244 is currently under observation in storage room blank, which shares a wall with the disposable cafeteria kitchen. Under no circumstances should the top button be pushed outside of supervised testing. Description: 1244 appears to be a blank blank brand stopwatch, specifically a model produced in 19-something. X-ray scans of the device reveal a very complex interior filled with gears and levers of various materials. The interior bears little to no relation to the expected components, both in complexity and material composition. Attempts to replicate or even map the design based on scans have met with repeated failure, and all requests to disassemble the watch have been turned down due to risk of damaging the device. An engraving on the back reads, "I'll see you soon, the." When the button on the top of the watch is pressed, the hand on the watch will quickly spin clockwise, reading a time between 10 and 60 seconds, then begin counting down to the 0 mark at a normal rate for a standard stopwatch. When the hand reaches 0, it stops with a loud click, coinciding precisely with an event of significance to a nearby person with a range of at least 16 meters. The event is always the sort caused by a fixed amount of time passing, as were all in progress before the button was pushed. Statistically, the number of such events occur with anomalous frequency during use of the watch, suggesting a sort of temporal causation by unknown method. Testing log. Setup: digital clock with 30 seconds left to alarm. Date: January the 13th something. 1244 spun up to 30 seconds and counted down along with digital clock. Digital clock with 8 minutes left to alarm. It spun up to 53 seconds. When it reached 0, Level 2 researcher Blank burst into the room and apologized for being late for scheduled testing. Researcher felt no strange compulsion, but had been held up studying and lost track of time and rushed through the facility in an attempt to arrive on time. Setup: all timepieces are removed from the room, all researchers present. 1244 spun up to 10 seconds. When it reached 0, no event was recorded. Note: this was later determined to have coincided with the end of guard shift C. 2 guards were stationed in the hallway outside the room at the time. Setup: researchers in a far corner of the room instructed to count down from 30 in his head. 1244 spun up to 27 seconds and reached 0 at the same time as researcher. Note: I guess the guy counted a little fast. Setup: non-researchers evacuated from testing wing. 1244 spun up to 57 seconds. When it reached 0, no event was recorded. Note: this event occurred at exactly 11 p.m. local time, or midnight in blank time where Dr. Blank's wife was living at the time. He was furious that he missed their anniversary. Dang. Setup: testing wing emptied, button pushed using remotely operated robot arm. 1244 spun up to 32 seconds. When it reached 0, the robotic arm sparked and dropped it. Note: we found a servo in the arm whose warranty expired exactly 2 years from time of purchase, matching its failure to the second. It seems that, with no obvious countdown to sync to, it finds one. Digital clocks with 61 seconds left to alarm. 1244 spun up to 60 seconds. When it reached 0, researcher Blank collapsed to the floor, dead of a ruptured brain aneurysm. Subsequently discovered medical reports from 90 days ago had given him roughly 3 months to live. Note: it may just be me, but it feels like this was a little vindictive. It is my recommendation that we consider testing done on this particular object, Consider testing done on this particular object. I'd rather not piss it off anymore and risk interacting with any other SCPs in the facility. Incident A. On March the 19th at some year, cleaning staff noted a faint ticking sound from 1244's lockbox. This was reported to research staff, who determined that it had been activated by itself after being locked away for nearly 2 months. Research staff were unable to determine what it was synced with, but the object has since been moved to a room adjacent to a cafeteria kitchen. Monitoring equipment shows that it occasionally activates and syncs with the microwave clock on the far side of the wall. Since this move, this is the only additional anomalous behavior that has been recorded. I wonder what it was counting down to, since they never found out. And now a whaling ship. The whaling ship is Euclid, but it also has its special containment procedures crossed out and rewritten. It used to say, MTF Zeta-4, Ahab's antagonists, are currently tracking its movements aboard the Foundation ship SCPS Archimedes. The Archimedes is disguised as a destroyer from the US Navy, allegedly pursuing illegal whalers. Local naval officials are to be informed of the presence of illegal whalers in the area and reroute commercial and private traffic accordingly. But now it says, SCP-1245 is currently located at Site-412, an abandoned harbor located somewhere. The entrance has been blocked by stone, preventing escape. 1245 is to remain anchored to the harbor bed at all times. Chains and anchors are to be inspected every week for signs of damage and repaired accordingly. Foundation ship SCPS Archimedes is to patrol the harbor's entrance at all times and deter unauthorized craft under the pretense of naval training exercises. Description: SCP-1245 is a blank model factory whaling ship, approximately 120 meters in length. Nameplates and numbers are missing and are believed to have been removed prior to acquisition. 1245 appears to be autonomous. It has been seen pursuing whales and incapacitating them via cannon-mounted harpoons, see observation log 1245 blankety-blank for video footage, before dragging them into 1245. No crew members have been observed anywhere inside of it. It has been observed hunting and processing a wide variety of cetaceans, including stock not usually hunted by whalers. Unusual specimens gathered include dolphins, orca whales, beaked whales, and narwhals and belugas. The majority of its internal structure is taken up by a central slaughterhouse, where whale carcasses are dissected and their parts sorted for future use. It uses tissue obtained from whale carcasses to maintain its structure and build new additions to its hull. It is estimated that roughly 65% of its current mass is made up of whale components. Exploration teams have documented several rooms and decks constructed entirely of whale meat. Several of these appear to be significantly altered from their original specifications. These include automated assembly lines built from ligaments and muscles, an onboard crane composed of vertebrae and ribs, a secondary rudder composed of baleen and bone, and a communications deck with several intact whale brains connected to a central radio. Ew. Rotting or decaying parts are replaced with new components as new whale specimens are acquired and processed. Materials move throughout the ship by a series of tubes composed from steel pipes and intestines. Significantly, the ship's engine has been heavily modified to burn whale oil and spermaceti, making the ship largely self-sufficient. The corpses of several infant whales in varying stages of decomposition adorn the prow of 1245. These are believed to be trophies collected during assaults on whale pods. SCP-1245 first came to the Foundation's attention at some point, after several ghost ship sightings occurred off the coast of southern Australia, followed by a marked decline in local cetacean population. It used to say, Mobile Task Force Zeta-4, Ahab's antagonists are currently tracking movements. Revised the incident log 1245-43 for more information pertaining to current containment revision. At some point, 1245 was successfully lured into Blank Harbor by playing a pre-recorded whale song and restrained by Zeta-4 in Operation Baleen. See incident log 44 for full details and casualty report. Blank Harbor was subsequently secured and renovated by Foundation staff and was rechristened Site-412. Addendum 1245. At some point, archivist someone discovered that the whaling ship Southern Star, a whaling ship of the same model as 1245, disappeared and was deemed sunk in 1940. Addendum 2. At some point, 1245 transmitted a message in Morse code to staff at Site-412. Grammar, spelling, and punctuation remain identical. Whale, whale! Now cut the softness of hot meat, harpoon, whale, whale, whale! Repair of the hull to deprive their bodies of thought and life, blue whale. Shallot. Catch a lot. Right repair of the hull, sick. The knives are to do important jobs, harpoon, hook, cut, whale, 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 give now, 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 now! This message was repeated 27 times before it ceased transmission. As of some point, 1245 has not released any further messages and does not respond to any messages sent by the Foundation. Alright. So, what's this incident log? Okay. It's either June the 7th or July the 6th. I'm not sure. Northern Alaska, coordinates blankety blank blank. Preamble. Zeta 4 had been monitoring 1245's movements for 6 months prior to the incident. Under previous containment procedures, operatives were dispatched to nearby coastal towns to warn local government officials about illegal whaling activity and to temporarily shut down nearby shipping lanes as 1245 entered and left the area. Here, however, 1245 was assaulted by members of Blank, a vigilante anti-whaling group who had bypassed quarantine in an attempt to put a stop to what was perceived as illegal whaling. Okay, I'm not going to read the times. The Archimedes is contacted by a vigilante group calling itself Blank, asking if the crew of the Archimedes requires assistance in prosecuting illegal whaling. Crew aboard Archimedes respond in the negative and order the ship turned around immediately. They respond in the negative and terminate radio contact. Archimedes attempts to intercept the boat. Zeta 4 attempts to raise radio contact and issues a final warning to turn back under pain of arrest. Message is ignored. Vigilante's boat manages to bypass the Archimedes and proceeds to make contact with 1245. Archimedes moves towards the Vigilante's boat position and prepares to administer amnestics to all individuals aboard the ship. It is believed that the Vigilante boat made visual contact at this time. 1245 is tracked moving at approximately 15 knots. The Archimedes arrives alongside 1245 and the Vigilante's boat. Apparently undeterred by its appearance, the Vigilante boat begins a non-lethal attack on 1245 with 2 high-pressure water cannons mounted on the hull of their ship. 1245 does not react and continues moving in its southeasterly direction. The Vigilante boat moves closer to 1245, approximately 20 meters away, and continues attacking. Protesters hurl several flash grenades onto the deck to no apparent effect. 1245 begins to decrease speed and sounds its horn. 1245 turns and begins moving towards the Vigilante boat, increasing speed as it does so. 1245 begins a counterattack by launching several harpoons at the crew from recessed ports in the hull. The harpoons launch themselves in the ship's hull and impede the movement of the Vigilante ship. The Vigilante ship attempts to escape but fails, damaging its outermost hull in the process. 1245 then vomits liquid from its prow, breaching its hull. Liquid is believed to be hydrochloric acid obtained from whale stomachs. The Archimedes launches 2 dinghies in an attempt to rescue personnel aboard the ship. 12 members of the crew are rescued before 1245 rams the ship, destroying it. MTF member 4 was lost during the rescue operation and is presumed dead. 1245 drags the wreckage of the ship onto its deck before resuming its original course, ignoring the Archimedes. Crew members are brought aboard the Archimedes and administer amnestics before being returned to the local harbor. Crew member Blank Blank, while monitoring 1245 from afar, notes that 1245 appears to slow down and dump several tons of metal overboard before resuming its course. We cannot allow another incident such as this. More stringent containment measures are to be implemented within the month. Okay, so now we know that if anyone actually were to attack the boat, it'll just spit hydrochloric whale acid at you. Nice. A stone spiral. The brown stone spire. What the hell does that mean? Euclid Nunti? What does that mean? Also, it looks like the rainbows are back on this one. They added the other stuff in there too. Let's see. Flight 1246 has been constructed around SCP-1246 in order to maintain secrecy, house personnel assigned to it, and prevent accumulation of fauna. What, cannibals? 1246 is contained in a cylindrical tank of water 17 meters in diameter and 1 meter in height. Several pumps are maintained to circulate water over SCP-1246 at a rate sufficient to prevent the accumulation of one. Once removed from the tank, one is to be filtered from the water and stored in concrete containers lined with lead. All iterations of 3 are to be recorded and logged. Amnestics are to be administered to all personnel at Site 1246 should 3 contain classified information. Huh? SCP-1246 is a spiral structure approximately 15 meters in diameter composed of a variety of stones. Individual stones may be removed from 1246 and destroyed without difficulty. However, 1246 will spontaneously and instantaneously reform in its entirety on an irregular basis regardless of damage done. Further analysis has shown that this event has a roughly 40% chance of occurring every time a solar flare occurs without regard to size of said flare. Alright, so that's an interesting way to keep track of when solar flares are happening. I'm not sure why you would need that knowledge, because I am not a scientist. Through an unknown process, a mixture consisting of primarily volcanic ash with trace amounts of iridium accumulates on 1246's surface, increasing in depth at an approximate rate of 0.8 millimeters a day. This mixture, designated 1, emits water vapor, carbon dioxide, thermal radiation, and ionizing radiation, all in levels not considered harmful to humans or the environment in the short term. 2 is a designation given to any non-human vertebrate that view all or part of 1246 or any other member of 2. In an uncontained state, this can create a chain effect of animals being converted into 2. Caution should be taken to avoid such an event. These vertebrates will approach 1246 and, short of coming into contact with it or displacing any other 2, find a spot as close to the structure as possible. Should this be accomplished, 2 will focus on 1246. If the center is not visible due to the presence of other animals or obstructions, 2 will instead focus on a point above 1246. 2 will remain in an alert state indefinitely. While viewing 1246, 2 instances do not appear to require any form of sustenance or sleep, and do not suffer from inactivity-related injuries such as atrophy. Further, specimens do not age, nor are they affected by diseases or environmental factors, including 1. Removal of 2 from the presence of 1246 will both remove them from their fixed state and cause the associated biological abnormalities to cease. SCP-1246 will demonstrate further anomalous behavior whenever a nuclear device is detonated on Earth. The use of nuclear fission or fusion as an energy source does not trigger 1246. Whenever an event of this nature occurs, 1246 will emit a series of noises, designated 3, audible up to 30 meters from its center. These noises are audible only to humans and electronic recording media. Non-electronic recording devices and non-human animals do not respond to 3 or recordings of it. 3 lasts no less than 13 minutes and 30 seconds and varies somewhat between iterations. A generalized transcript is available for personnel with clearance 2/1246, see below. The transcript applies to all iterations of 3 unless noted otherwise. Okay, begin log. What is believed to be ambient noise from an unidentified urban area. Volume rises until 743, then cuts off. Screams are audible from 619 to 743. The sound of a clock ticking once per second. Echoes are audible. A series of animal vocalizations arranged in a manner that is reminiscent of the phrase, "You know what you've done," repeated in 20 languages. Both languages in question and their order varies with each iteration. Silence. A series of animal vocalizations arranged in a manner that is reminiscent of the phrase, "No, and we never will be." 49 seconds of monologue. While variable between iterations, in each case the speaker has been a current or former leader of a nation or organization in the possession of nuclear devices. The content of the monologue consistently centers on foreign policy. All monologues documented thus far have corresponded to speeches delivered by the leader in question. A sequence of 8 digits is expressed in Morse code via a telegraph key varying in each iteration. Addendum. When interpreted as a date in the form of day, month, year, the final sequence of digits in SCP-1246-3 corresponds to a date no less than 2 centuries in the future. On 3 occasions, the date July 30th, 2071 has occurred. The significance of this date has been classified by O5 Command. So it sounds like the stone spiral is the Earth's doomsday clock. The thing with the 2 minutes to midnight? Or however many minutes to midnight we're at. How many minutes to midnight are we? How many minutes to midnight? Doomsday clock. That didn't give me an answer. Today. So, well, it looks like Wikipedia has these answers, since I'm curious about it. As of 2020, we are a little bit less than 2 minutes to midnight. I am not surprised by this in the slightest. Okay, close. Now it's time for LaBeouf viewer. If it's not about Shia LaBeouf, I will be shocked. If it's about the song actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, I also wouldn't be shocked. It's safe, whatever it is. In the event of containment breach, 1247 is to be treated as a physically normal, untrained human hostile. Personnel are warned that 1247 is psychologically unstable and cannot distinguish between organisms. Use of lethal force to detain is not authorized. 1246 is to be contained in a standard humanoid containment cell. Is the SCP just straight up Shia LaBeouf? And cannot blah, 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 blah. The cell must be proofed against penetration by vermin and insects. No personnel may make physical contact with 1247 unless they fit the following physical specifications. Anatomically male. Height within 5 centimeters of 176 centimeters. weight within 10 kilograms of 74 kilograms, anatomically standard number and positioning of limbs, digits, and appendages, ears, nose, etc. Full specifications must be verified before physical contact with 1247 can be authorized. Specifications may be waived during relevant testing. 1247 is currently undergoing a process of psychological rehabilitation. To assist in this process, all personnel entering its quarters must wear face-obscuring masks and must not wear any clothing items or accessories made of or incorporating leather. 1247 is required to attend bi-weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Zhang at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays. Session length should not exceed 1 hour, but reasonable expectations may be made at the discretion of Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang is required to wear a mask and must maintain a distance of 1 meter from 1247 for the duration of all sessions. Dr. Zhang has emphasized that the comfort and safety of 1247 is paramount. An armed security agent must be present in the room for the duration of all sessions. To ensure psychological stability of 1247, meals provided must not contain meat. 1247 has requested that no mirrors be brought into its cell. SCP-1247 is a 37-year-old human male, formerly probably Shia LaBeouf, of blank blank somewhere in the United States of America. Biologically normal on almost all accounts. However, testing has revealed some atypical brain activity. Why did... I'll keep reading. Okay. Significantly, radiology has revealed the absence of substantial areas of the cerebrum which appear to have been displaced by the presence of foreign biological matter from an unidentified living organism. This organism has been tentatively classified as a variety of fungus and bears superficial resemblance to mushrooms of the genus Morchella, but has yet to be conclusively matched to any recognized terrestrial species. There are currently no plans to remove this organism from 1247. They exhibit 3 anomalous effects. The primary anomalous effect exhibited by 1247 is psychological and is observable only to 1247 itself. When able to observe a live animal, dead animal, or part of an animal, it perceives that the animal as American film and television actor Shia LaBeouf. This perceptual effect extends to all of 1247's senses. Regardless of the actual size or shape of the animal, 1247 perceives a life-size instance of Shia LaBeouf. Testing has determined that the body position and movements of Shia LaBeouf instances mirror the actual position and movements of the animal as closely as possible without requiring a restructuring of Shia LaBeouf's actual anatomy. For example, an ant perceived by 1247 would take the apparent form of Shia LaBeouf's actual anatomy. For example, an ant. Okay, actually, I misread the thing. Because of LaBeouf being in the same exact spot. Would take the form of Shia LaBeouf scuttling in an ant-like way, but would be limited in its accuracy by Shia LaBeouf's lack of a thorax, third pair of legs, and other anatomical features possessed by a true ant. Despite this imperfect mimicry, 1247 claims that Shia LaBeouf instances can perform the same physical feats as the animals they replace, even when this would be physically impossible for the actual Shia LaBeouf. For example, a horse perceived by 1247 took the apparent form of Shia LaBeouf galloping on all fours at the speed of the actual horse, while a bird perceived took the apparent form of Shia LaBeouf flying through the air by flapping his arms. If 1247 observes an animal that would typically lack the anatomical features of Shia LaBeouf, it perceives a normal Shia LaBeouf instance regardless. For example, a worm perceived by 1247 took the apparent form of Shia LaBeouf lying on the ground with his arms and legs present, but seemingly paralyzed. Similarly, if 1247 observes a live or dead animal that is missing an anatomical feature, or observes part of an animal, it perceives a full anatomically complete Shia LaBeouf instance. For example, why are there so many for examples? A cooked chicken wing perceived by 1247 took the apparent form of Shia LaBeouf, with one arm bent into a shape of approximately that of the cooked chicken wing. The instance of Shia LaBeouf perceived by 1247 in this test was dead, like the chicken wing, but was whole and uncooked. Testing has determined that instances of Shia LaBeouf perceived by 1247 reliably match the current physical condition and appearance of the actual Shia LaBeouf. However, when 1247 views parts of animals or dead animals, perceived instances lack the presence of life despite the continued life of the actual Shia LaBeouf. The secondary anomalous effect exhibited by 1247 is physical and may be observed by others. When 1247 interacts physically with a live animal, dead animal, or part of an animal, it interacts with that animal as if it were Shia LaBeouf. This anomalous effect impacts on size, weight, and anatomy of the animal as it is interacted with by 1247. For example, again, in one test, 1247 was asked to drag a Shia LaBeouf instance by its arm. Unbeknownst to 1247, the Shia LaBeouf instance was actually a worm. Although the worm possessed no arms, 1247 was seemingly able to grab hold of an invisible arm and accomplish the task with some difficulty. The test was repeated with the worm test subject replaced first by a human, then a cow, and then a chicken fillet. All tests had the same result. 1247 reported that the weight of all 4 test subjects was identical. Weighing later showed that this was not the case. All 4 test subjects had weight appropriate to their true forms, even whilst held by 1247. In a later test, 1247 was asked to sever an arm from an instance of Shia LaBeouf. This Shia LaBeouf instance was also a worm, and had no arm or arm equivalent. Regardless, 1247 reported the successful severing of an arm. They were asked to describe the perceived arm, but reported neither arm nor one arm Shia LaBeouf, but rather 2 whole dead Shia LaBeoufs, one of which then disappeared. The exception to both of these anomalous effects involves a live animal, dead animal, or part of an animal that is located inside of 1247. When this occurs, the animal is perceived as it would be by a normal human and physically interacted with as such. Neither 1247's primary nor secondary anomalous effects extend to photographs, recordings, live video, or other non-physical, non-biological forms of or depictions of animals. However, the primary anomalous effect does not extend to any animals observed in reflection or through a lens. Neither 1247's primary nor secondary effects extend to animal byproducts or to organisms that are not part of the kingdom Animalia. The anomalous effects have not yet been tested on a cellular level. The tertiary effect exhibited by 1247 is psychological and is observable only to 1247 itself. It is incapable of viewing specimens of any species of moral mushroom, genus Morchella. This effect extends to live, partial, and dead specimens of moral mushroom, as well as all non-physical, non-biological representations of moral mushroom where it can be reasonably identified as such. This effect does not extend to textual descriptions of moral mushrooms. This effect does not extend to any of its other senses. There is no corresponding physical effect. Note: for a more in-depth study of the anomalous effects, personnel may refer to Experiment Log 1247. I am absolutely not going to be doing that because this article is painful. The manner in which 1247 is able to exhibit these anomalous effects is unknown. According to 1247, none of these effects were manifested before the year 2000-something. In April of that year, 1247 purchased and viewed a videotape recording of the film Holes, starring Shia LaBeouf. Approximately 30 minutes into viewing the movie, they were struck by a violent pain in the front of his head and blacked out for a period of time it estimates to be less than 10 seconds. Upon awakening, 1247 resumed watching the film and then went to sleep. At this stage, no anomalous effects had been observed. The next day, 1247 exited his home and observed what it perceived to be Shia LaBeouf naked and digging through its garbage. Based on his reported behavior, researchers have determined that the supposed Shia LaBeouf was most likely a raccoon. This incident marks the first exhibition of 1247's primary anomalous effect. Following the incident, 1247 alerted police to what it believed to be the actual Shia LaBeouf behaving under the influence of narcotics. 1247 then took shelter within its home. When the police arrived, they exited the house only to discover that both of the officers present were Shia LaBeouf. 1247's recount of the following events is confused due to the trauma endured by 1247 and the obvious perceptual disability. Researchers have determined that the most likely sequence of events is that 1247 fled the officers, encountered a flock of pigeons on the way to its car, and attempted to drive away. The presence of an insect believed to be a blowfly in the vehicle led to a panic attack and subsequent crash. 1247 attempted to physically assault the blowfly. This incident marks the first exhibition of 1247's secondary anomalous effect. Following the altercation, they fled the car and later the town of Blank itself. 1247 took up residence in an abandoned cabin in the forest north of Blank Blank. At this stage, they believed the instances of Shia LaBeouf were some sort of demonic beings. Remained in the cabin for blank years, subsisting from water gathered through a rainwater tank and by eating grass, berries, occasionally scavenged food, and the flesh of Shia LaBeouf instances it hunted in the forest. Attempts by 1247 to cut, cook, or otherwise prepare its meat resulted in the same perceived outcome: whole, uncooked instances of Shia LaBeouf. For this reason, 1247 took the biting chunks out of the Shia LaBeouf instances. The true nature of the meals was revealed to it only once the bite had been taken. It is believed that this uncertainty, combined with the psychological trauma of having to frequently devour what appeared to be human bodies, as well as the constant trauma of being surrounded by supposedly demonic Shia LaBeoufs, led to an eventual psychological breakdown. 1247 was recovered from its cabin outside of Blank Blank following a police investigation of a recent homicide and cannibalism case thought to be related to the spate of animal slayings and mutilations around the area. After being taken into police custody, 1247 attempted to explain its primary anomalous effect. Although police dismissed this case as a simple hallucination, it caught the attention of embedded Foundation personnel. Foundation agent Blank was dispatched to investigate further and took 1247 into Foundation custody after witnessing a display of its secondary anomalous effect. 1247's copy of Holes has been recovered. Testing has determined no anomalous effects. 1247 has expressed disinterest in a second viewing. Okay, so now that I've actually finished the article, let me just say this is exactly what the fuck I thought it was. Someone just made a really long, very badly written SCP article that is literally just a prequel story to the music video Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf. They did all of this just to lead up to Shia LaBeouf in the woods eating people. Whoever wrote this, fuck you. Whoever let this be on the website, fuck you too. Moving on. Personality recorder. What does this mean? What is Nunti? What is that? Oh, hold up. Where's the thing on how the ratings work? Object classes. Safe, Euclid, Keter, Thaumiel, Neutralized, Apollyon, Archon. Explained, Esoteric Narrative Decommissioned. Nunti's not even in here. It's not even in here. What does that mean? What does Nunti mean and why have there been two of them? SCP-1248 may be kept in a standard containment locker at Site-20 along with all cassette tapes that it is recorded. It is to be tested only in a soundproof room with a separate observation area. Testing of recordings made by 1248 hereby 1 should take place only on separate cassette players to avoid undue harm to 1248. Testing requires permission of at least 2 Level 3 personnel. Description: SCP-1248 is a Walkman WMD6C recording device with wear and tear consistent with regular usage. As with normal devices of this model, it is capable of recording sounds when the cassette tape is inserted. The name Eric is carved into the underside of the device. SCP-1248's anomalous properties manifest when a person listens to an instance of one with one or more human voices audible. Testing indicates that other audio input has the potential to trigger these effects. Further testing is required to determine the exact parameters of this capacity. Any subject who hears the recording will become listless and unresponsive until the recording stops or the subject is otherwise unable to hear one. Upon recovery, all subjects will exhibit the personality traits of one person who has produced sound heard in one. This change is permanent and affects all facets of the subject's personality. However, memories, intelligence, and skills will usually remain unaltered. It has been found that subjects will remain unaffected by instances of one listened to after their first exposure, except in cases where the exposure is to their own voice. Note that the emotion present in the voice recorded by one is usually inconsequential. Addendum: it has been found that altering said recordings may alter their effect on subjects. See Testing Log A for further information. Okay, well here's Testing Log A. Sound recorded, a dog barking. Subjects disposable 3639. Special conditions, none. They appeared highly confused and ceased to speak. Further, they lost the ability to process complex information. Sound recorded, Dr. Hathaway singing Eye of the Tiger. Subjects, Dr. Schroeder, Hathaway, and White. Special conditions, Dr. Hathaway had consumed large quantities of alcohol prior to testing. This was unauthorized, none were aware of 1248's properties. As expected, however, all 3 subjects showed signs of alcohol intoxication and continued to do so after they would normally become sober. After 1 week, the 3 were dosed with amnestics and remanded to a civilian care facility. Okay. Sound recorded, Agent Dixon saying his name. Subject's name unknown, a captured agent of the Chaos Insurgency. Special conditions, Agent Dixon has demonstrated remarkable loyalty towards the Foundation. Result: the subject appeared cooperative and attempted to divulge sensitive information regarding a suspected CI base near New Delhi, but experienced severe throat swelling in the process of doing so. In addition, large amount of scar tissues appeared throughout the subject's respiratory tract. Subject died shortly thereafter of suffocation. Note: use of anomalous items for counterintelligence purposes by the Chaos Insurgency confirmed. Sounds recorded. D-2180 saying the word something. Subjects, D-2344. The tape recorder, special conditions, the tape recorder used to play one was heavily damaged. Result, D-2344 exhibited behavior sometimes consistent with 2180's personality, and sometimes with her own personality, switching between the two without warning. 2344 was apparently unaware of these shifts, although she did claim to feel fatigue. Sound recorded. Use it on somebody else. The tape played backwards. 2360 gained the personality of D-2180 as expected, except that 2360 also became a compulsive liar. No underlying neurological cause found. Sound recorded. 2180 reading a short paragraph from a Foundation training manual. Subjects D2348. 2180's voice was altered using a phase decoder and auto-tune software. Result: while the personality resembled that of 2180 nominally, they did not express emotion physically or vocally except via direct statement. Further, subject noted the presence of misanthropic tendencies not present in 2180. Sound recorded? None. Subjects 5552. The microphone was blocked prior to recording. The result: 5552 showed signs of fear and expressed discomfort with being tangible. When allowed to do as he wished, he attempted to self-immolate. Pestilence! What, the Horseman? Or... wait, is it actually the... oh god. As of this writing, SCP-1249 is contained in Sector Blank. Subject is to be contained in a 6x6 meter airtight BSL-4 containment cell with 2-stage airlock, observed by a closed-circuit surveillance camera at all times. The pressure inside 1249's cell should be kept at 70 kilopascals. The cell is to be fitted with a bed, a bathroom with a contained plumbing system, a filtered air vent, and an observation window. Lighting in the containment cell should be limited to 12 candelas at all times. I mean, 30. Where did I get 12 from? 30 candelas at all times. Subject is to be given 500 grams of raw meat, 2 kilograms of live invertebrates, and 1 kilogram of plant matter 3 times a day. The containment cell is to be cleaned and disinfected at least twice daily by personnel wearing level A hazmat suits. Description: 1249 is a humanoid entity weighing around 76 kilograms, composed entirely of terrestrial invertebrates from many species. While CAT scans indicate the presence of a human skeletal structure, the subject's flesh and internal organs have been completely replaced by the invertebrate swarm. The swarm functions in place of the subject's muscular system and organs. Any individual removed from the swarm shows no anomalous property until reunited with 1249. The subject can assimilate normal invertebrate organisms into the swarm in the event of injury. 1249's humanoid skeletal structure is incapable of regenerating from damage. When the subject is exposed to light with intensity above 45 candelas, the subject will lose its humanoid shape and the swarm will disperse over an area approximately 300 meters squared in size. It constantly excretes clear viscous fluid at an average of 30 milliliters per hour. Microscopic examination has revealed that the fluid contains a variety of microbes and pathogens. Identified pathogens include Variola major, Mycobacterium leprae, Yersinia pestis, and Zaire Ebola virus. So there's at least Ebola virus and leprosy, and I don't know what the other two are. 1249 fluid appears to sustain the microbes indefinitely and allow infection to occur through brief skin contact. The subject possesses no vocal capability but can hear and write reasonably well, allowing adequate communication though its lack of fine motor skills often renders it writing indecipherable. 1249 writes principally in classical Arabic but also displays some knowledge of Aramaic. Addendum 1. 1249 was discovered near a small town in blank North America at some point in the 2000s after a minor outbreak of illnesses that resembled English sweating sickness, followed by the frequent sightings of what witnesses described as a man made out of bugs at night. The subject was contained 5 days after initial sighting, and amnestics were successfully administered to each witness. Addendum 2. The following is a translation from the first communication attempt by 1249 by Foundation personnel on something 2000 something. We are cursed by him. He unable to translate vow. Ni Adam, only unable to translate. Okay, so it is just straight up the Horseman Pestilence. I'm pretty sure that I've already read about other Horsemen, but it's been years and I forgot that that was a thing in this world. And then alternate reality recorders, which is safe, so I guess it's also another just recording device? SCP-1250 is to be kept in a large double lock safe in a fireproof enclosure at site somewhere. The storage container is not to be opened by anyone without level 3 clearance or higher. Instances of 1 and 2 that have been expended are to be properly labeled and filed away in a neighboring room, categorized by date, length, and content. Tapes may be viewed freely by all permitted staff. For a full list of available recordings, please refer to document redacted. Researchers wishing to use blank 1 or 2 samples for experimentation must submit a formal request to Dr. Carter, with the details of the experiments in question and the required number of samples. Description: as of some point in the 2000s, 1250 is a collection of something thousand compact audio cassette tapes and something thousand VHS tapes, 1 and 2 respectively. 1 and 2 samples are ashen in color and devoid of any form of branding or labels. Internally, they are completely indistinguishable from other tapes of similar design and can be used via any standard audio-video recording equipment. However, 1 and 2 samples do not accurately record events. Upon playback of a 1 or 2 tape, there are noticeable differences between the content of captured audio-video recordings and the real-world occurrences that participants remember observing. These alterations, while inconsistent, are initially never drastic. Situations presented in recordings are largely the same, but subtle changes, differences in pronunciation, word choice, furniture present in room, gender, or age of the recorded individual, are found when compared to standard recordings. In the case of 1252, visual discrepancies will manifest in place of aural, as video samples produce no audio when viewed. Multiple simultaneous recordings are noted to further alter proceedings, with greater numbers of 1 or 2 tapes present during a single session, resulting in more dramatic variations. The only variable consistent across all samples are the exact date, time, and location, which are 100% identical in every recording of a given event. Testing has also shown that 1 and 2 samples do not appear to have any storage limit. Recording can continue indefinitely until manually stopped. Especially lengthy recordings have not been shown to exhibit a greater number of changes than shorter ones, even if a large variety of events are to occur, or the recording device were to travel a considerable distance during its duration. 1 and 2 cannot be overwritten, and all attempts to transfer data to different formats have failed. Addendum 1. On February the 15th, 1990-something, a test was performed that had researchers initiate a set of 3, 2, and 3 standard video recordings in a singular location, and then transport a pair of each in separate directions. All 6 recordings start the same way, with no noticeable differences occurring until after the groups were significantly separated from one another. As a result of this event, staff now believe that alterations will not manifest in the presence of other partial recordings, and that the recorded events of a 1 or 2 sample are not written in real time. Addendum 2. I don't know why the addendums are in Roman numerals. On April the 2nd, 2001, Dr. Somebody staged a reenactment of an earlier test conducted on something 1990-something. The conditions of the control tape were recreated down to the finest detail. All involved staff reprised their roles and repeatedly lied about the date and time of the proceedings. The 1 results received were not the same as those of the earlier test. Addendum 3. A series of trials performed between July 2006 and September 2006 by Dr. T and Dr. Carter have concluded that 1 and 2 recordings will present fewer changes when recorded in the presence of an event with an exceedingly high number of potential outcomes, particularly games of chance. Footage of gambling paraphernalia in use, cards, dice, slot machines, roulette wheels, darts, will almost never showcase alterations outside of the central objects, regardless of how many additional samples are used to record. Addendum 4. 2 testing has been put on indefinite hiatus. Please see experiment logs A and B for more details. And what's that about? Oh, it's a long one. And what did you say was experiment logs 2 testing has been put on indefinite hiatus. And which one was 2? 2 is the video. Okay, so we're just going to skip to the video ones. Please be sure to include your name, the date, and duration of the recording on all records. Due to the omission of audio by 2 video samples, all descriptions provided should cover only what is seen during the control tapes, not what is heard. Name, doctors blank and blank. At some point in the 1990s, the tip was 43 seconds long. The first doctor pitches a baseball to the second one from a distance of 15 meters. Control tape, the bat is seen making contact with the ball, sending the ball flying far past the view of the camera. The doctor claps in response to the home run. On the tape, the doctor is seen stifling a cough, delaying the pitch by 4 seconds. The bat is seen making contact with the ball, resulting in a foul. Okay, Dr. T. At some point in 1997, it was a 2-hour tape. 3 cameras pointed at a television playing the contents of another 2 sample. The contents of the sample included a data expunged. Control tape, the contents of the original 2 sample are seen clearly on the screen. 1 came out blank, having no material. Okay, they both had no material. Doctors blank and blank in 1990-something. 13 minutes, 2 cameras set up on a small table in the middle of a large concrete room facing in opposite directions. In the control tape, the room is empty and nothing occurs for the entire duration. But in the 2, a series of empty cans are thrown from behind the camera towards the wall by an unseen individual. This action persists for the entire duration of the recording. Dr. Carter, in 2006, for 7 seconds, set up a group of 13 cameras to record him rolling a pair of 6-sided dice. Control result, dice 11. Tape 1, 3, 9, 16, 5, 108, whatever that means. 4, 0, 7, 3/4, 2, redacted. Okay. Name, Agent H with Dr. Carter and Dr. T, and the 2000 something for 23 seconds. Agent was asked to fire 3 shots at disposable 32907 using his M9 from a distance of 22.5 meters. The agent was also asked to intentionally try and avoid hitting 329071 during the experiment, though this information was not shared with the subject. I guess they just added that one by accident. Control tape. The first 2 shots missed the subject. The third hits him in the right shoulder, the shoulder clutching the wound and reeling in pain before the recording ends. Tape 1, all 3 shots miss. Tape 2, all 3 shots hit them in the chest and abdomen. Tape 3, agent is seen standing directly behind them with his firearm pressed against the backside of their head. He fires a single shot, killing them instantly, and stares at the camera for the remainder of the recording. Tape 4, they are replaced with a specimen of redacted. Agent H is killed during the ensuing conflict. Okay. 4 cameras left overnight in front of a television blaring static. Control tape. The static is consistently seen. Tape 1, it plays the static stock footage of spiders catching prey. Tape 2, in the place of static, a black and white footage of a deceased elderly man is seen. He sits slumped in a chair next to an ornate lamp in a room devoid of any other furniture. At 5 minutes, his body begins to fall to pieces starting from the top down. This process is subtle at first as it takes until 9 hours and 12 minutes to fully complete, and is more easily observed when the footage is sped up. Tape 3. Television is off and a lamp behind the camera can be seen in the reflection. A silhouetted figure is seen passing through the reflection on occasion. Okay, Dr. T. 6 hours, 6 cameras recorded several minutes of a Little League baseball game in Aberdeen, Maryland. Control tape. Children plays Little League baseball. One team wears light blue jerseys and the other one has yellow. Tape 1. Identical to Control except that a particular player wears a number 8 instead of 6. Tape 2. Identical to Control except that a female spectator to the game has been replaced by Lana Neal. Tape 3. Identical to Control except the position and orientation of the shadows of the objects shown in the recording suggests the presence of more than one sunlight source of illumination. Tape 4. The rules appear to have changed. The pitcher and fielding team seem to be throwing the ball at the batter's head with intent to injure, following which the batter chases the pitcher around the field, attempting to beat him with the bat. Umpire coaches the spectators appear to regard this as normal. Tape 5. Identical to Control except the game participants and spectators appear to be reciting a prayer to Dazbog, Slavic pagan sun god, and the Old Church Slavonic language while playing. Dr. T with redacted. 24 hours prior to this experiment, Dr. T was the victim of an unfortunate car crash and was rushed to Blank Blank Hospital under Foundation custody. He had previously asked to have his final moments captured on tape by 2 in the event of a fatal injury or terminal illness. Control tape. Dr. T remains motionless in his hospital bed for the duration of the recording. Nurses are seen rushing in at 43:05 in response to his heart monitor flatlining. Despite their best efforts, his heartbeat is not restored and he's pronounced deceased at 1 hour and 9 minutes. Second, on the tape, Dr. T is unconscious during the initial portion of the recording, and he is seen discussing something with one of the nurses before she exits the room at 25:54. Dr. Carter is seen walking into the frame at 43:05 and quickly proceeds to smother his colleague with a nearby pillow. Dr. T struggles against the attempted suffocation, but he's easily overpowered by Carter and falls still at 1 hour 9:15. Dr. Carter exits the room following this confrontation and is not seen for the remainder of the recording. Following the events of the above experiment, the project has been handed over to Dr. Carter. It's requested that no further 2 experiments be performed for the time being. Why would the... Whatever. The SCP Foundation is stupid, we know this. Okay, so next up is the Accident Black Spot. Alright, so this one's another Euclid. Alright. Due to the quasi-random movement of 1251 and its presence on public roads, embedded agents in the local emergency services and the UK Highways Agency have been instructed to act as liaison with on-site personnel. Roads leading to 1251's current site are to be secured and traffic redirected, with the nearest 3 traffic intersections to be kept under video and gravimetric surveillance. From the 26th day of the last known relocation of 1251, the team should be on high alert for activity and be prepared to transfer containment measures at any time. As of some point, the containment team is to be expanded to 6 members and placed on 14-hour overlapping shifts of 3 personnel, see Addendum 1. Attempts are underway to influence the movement towards a secure facility, see Addendum 2. Foundation personnel and local civic planning offices should be advised of any unnecessary road closures and title transfers. Description: SCP-1251 is a freestanding phenomenon currently centered in a mini roundabout located somewhere in the United Kingdom. It exerts an anomalous pseudo-gravitational force on all objects within 12 meters of its center, typically varying between 0.4 newtons per kilogram and 2 newtons per kilogram. It has been determined that SCP-1251 is able to transmit itself between roundabouts and other circular junctions, and does so approximately once a month. No pattern has been detected to the fluctuations in its schedule relative to the lunar or Gregorian calendar. The force SCP-1251 exerts on its surroundings is inversely proportional to the size of the intersection. Large roundabouts and junctions are generally safe to approach, and its anomalous effects would not be readily apparent to traffic. At many roundabouts, traditional crossroads, and similar arrangements, it has displayed far greater destructive potential. The highest measured force exerted by 1251 at a painted circle mini roundabout in somewhere is 1200 newtons per kilogram. Use of ground-penetrating radar has located a mass 1.8 meters below Site 1251-somewhere, revealed by ferromagnetic imaging to be a metal cage consistent with a 16th century gibbet, or gibbet. No corresponding execution was recorded on the site, and further tests following 1251's shift into a new location show that the object had disappeared, only for a similar mass to be detected at 1251's new site. It can be safely assumed that this object, or what it contains, is the cause of 1251. Attempts to excavate the affected area while 1251 is in a relatively low activity state to retrieve this object has thus far been unsuccessful, as removal of large amounts of material from 1251's current site has been observed to dramatically increase the pseudo-gravitational force exerted by the anomaly. Study at traffic accident records indicate that it may have been operating for some time. A moving accident black spot can be traced moving through the road network, it used to say apparently or originating in Folkestone, UK. Corresponding with colleagues in Sector 26 suggests that 1251 may have been active in France before jumping to the UK via the Channel Tunnel. Given this new information, priority is to be given to finding a way to reliably controlling 1251's direction of shift so it can be guided towards a secure facility or at least an unpopulated area. Otherwise, there is a significant danger that 1251 will eventually leave Sector 25's jurisdiction. Recovery. SCP-1251 came to the Foundation's attention on some point due to a pileup at a rural roundabout somewhere. Emergency services arriving on the scene immediately sustained near identical vehicular damage and casualties, and a fast response team was dispatched to investigate. It was quickly established that 1251 was exerting an anomalous force of approximately 1 newton per kilogram within the area of the roundabout. Personnel represented themselves as members of an explosive ordnance team. There's supposed to be a letter I in there, I believe. And the incident was reported as an act of terrorism targeted at the most senior casualty of the pileup, a parliamentary undersecretary of state returning from a delegation in Indonesia. Surrounding roads were immediately closed under the cover of repair work. Containment was lost on the 29th day of Foundation presence. The team began experimentation on the morning of some time to discover that one no longer possessed any anomalous qualities. Sector 25 began intercepting police and emergency notifications from a site 1.5 miles away from the containment zone. Upon arrival, it was discovered that a car had become stranded on the traffic island. The occupant had reported difficulty leaving their vehicle. Further measurements indicated that the roundabout was exerting an attractive force of 1.6 newtons per kilogram. The team was faced with the challenge of winding up operations at Site 1 while simultaneously securing Site 2 using the pretext of a road subsidence. Addendum 1. Agent Blank, tasked with supervising the on-site team, has been placed on leave due to mental and physical exhaustion exacerbating a previously undiagnosed nervous condition. See Log 1. 05. Someone has read the medical report produced by Dr. Somebody, and is satisfied that the contents of Agent Blank's field logs are the product of stress and poor deployment practice leading to a personal crisis, rather than further anomalous behavior exhibited by 1251. The agent is not to return to active duty unless cleared by a Foundation psychiatrist. Addendum 2. Significant progress has been made in guiding the movement of 1251. The anomaly shows a clear preference for traveling along open, publicly owned roads without doubling back on itself, and furthermore favors intersections with a specific configuration, to wit, through road with second road intersecting at a right angle. Low dome mini roundabout without double yellow lines. By applying pressure on local government bodies to temporarily close and/or transfer strategic sections of road to Foundation ownership, the containment team has been able to encourage 1251 to move along a more or less predictable route. Current projections indicate that 1251 can be guided to Site 60 within the next 2 years, where it can be safely contained by placing it on a track comprising 2 mini roundabouts on a circular carriage and linked by a further road. The behavior 1251 exhibits when choosing its next location suggests it may have some degree of sentience. Further research is advisable. And where does Log 1 go? Okay. I don't think we need to read that. Next up is a half-formed idea, which is, again, Euclid. SCP-1252 is to be contained in a standard humanoid containment chamber large enough to also contain its detonated life support system. It is to be attended to by a team of medical personnel in a manner detailed in Treatment Schedule L. 1252 is to receive nutrition through intravenous therapy as detailed in Schedule L, until the subject's digestive system is deemed functional. SCP-1252 is to be led to believe that Susie, or Suzanne May Fox, is currently alive and is undergoing treatment in a local hospital specializing in children. Personnel are encouraged to reinforce this belief with 1252 whenever it brings up the subject. Personnel are further encouraged to reinforce this belief... are further encouraged to emphasize the subject exercise patience in waiting for Susie's return. Should it begin to show skepticism, personnel are to maintain the established fabrication and notify Dr. Liu immediately for further instruction. Description: SCP-1252 is a sapient adult humanoid of indeterminate sex, approximately 43 kilograms in mass and 1.78 meters in height. It appears to be missing at least half of its body mass, mostly in the form of muscle, fat, bone, and skin tissue. The only limbs or organs entirely intact are the left arm, heart, and brain. Despite its injuries, the subject is capable of speech. Much of the remaining internal organs are composed of what appears to be compressed insect wing material, which maintains structural integrity only while part of 1252. Once removed, it rapidly separates into non-anomalous wing scales. Approximately 23% of 1252's skin appears to be made up of wings from multiple species in the Papilionidae, swallowtail butterfly, and skimmer percher dragonfly families. The left eye has been replaced with a blue glory bower or blue butterfly bush flower. The eye is not believed to be capable of sight and does not blink. Although capable of regeneration, 1252 does not seem to be able to fully recover any missing skin or other bodily tissues. Once it achieves a maximum body mass of 43 kilograms, all healing of internal organs and skin stops. 1252's behavior remains highly cooperative, partially due to the fabrication detailed in its special containment procedures. Despite its cooperation, the exact nature of 1252 remains unknown. New information or theories are to be reported to Dr. Liu. Addendum A: 1252 has requested the following: pain medication, denied on grounds of poor health; a variety of candies, denied on grounds of poor health; access to outside air, denied poor health; one copy of Beatrix Potter, The Complete Tales by Beatrix Potter, approved. 1252 is to be allowed access for continued cooperative behavior. Stationery for purposes of self-expression/entertainment, approved. 1252 is to be allowed access to wax, crayon, and paper for continued cooperative behavior. To receive a future letter being delivered to it, the letter arrived approximately 48 hours at 1252's door. The letter had no return address, and the message contained details of Susie's condition written in neat blue ink. It is unknown how 1252 knew about the letter or how the letter appeared. Denied on grounds of possible anomalous activity. Let's drink some water real quick before we check the interview. Not sure why my mouth is so dry right now. March 20-something, 2000-something. Interviewer, interviewee, 1252, interviewer, Dr. Blake. This interview was conducted 2 days after the Foundation's acquisition of 1252, as it was previously not healthy enough to communicate, and was temporarily kept in an isolated room in the medical wing at Site-37 for recovery. Begin log. So, you're SCP-1252, right? Attempts a shrug, no verbal response. Sifting through clipboard. Could you explain what exactly you were supposed to be? I'm supposed to be Susie's very best friend. Well, Susie is what her friends called her. Right. Could you please explain why you have insect wings on your skin? Susie always liked butterflies, dragonflies too. They were pretty. And flowers. Her mother grew lots of flowers back before her parents separated and her mother had to move into an apartment. 1252 briefly lifts his left hand up to touch his left eye. Okay. Who is this Susie? A slight pause as it adjusts its oxygen mask and inhales deeply several times. Her full name is Suzanne May Fox. She lives on 16 Maple Road in Blank. She goes to Blank Blank Elementary School and is in 2nd grade. Could you find her and tell her I'm okay? We got separated in an accident and I don't want her to worry. Please detail this accident you mentioned. I don't really know what happened. I'm sorry, I couldn't be of more help. I know I'm supposed to be her very best friend, but something interrupted her thoughts. I'm sure when you find her, she can explain everything. She's a smart girl, and when you do find her, could you please bring her to me so I can be finished? I'm sure she would appreciate it. At this point, 1252 becomes very excited, prompting a medical personnel to signal Dr. Blake and end the interview. We will do what we can, 1252. Nods, no verbal response. Okay, so it sounds like this thing is Susie's imaginary friend, but possibly a car accident happened before she finished coming up with it. So now it's just most of an imaginary friend, and it's like, this existence is awful. I'd like to be finished, please. I want to say Quechuan priests? Hopefully I said that right. They're also Euclid. Mobile Task Force Omicron Persei Omicron 19, Flash Lightning, is currently assigned to the tracking, observation, and recovery of SCP-1253-1 instances. All exposed subjects are monitored for correlations, all witnesses are administered Class C amnestics, and all compromising media is destroyed. Recovered 1 instances are stored in humanoid containment units, which are secured with digital combination locks. Access codes to 1 instances are shuffled on a bi-monthly basis and distributed to associated researchers, site security, and site command. 1 testing is conducted with the notification of Site Director Davis. Description: SCP-1253 is a phenomenon affecting various cities in Bolivia and Peru. In the event of war, famine, or the death of a prominent political figure, 1 instances will progress from an unknown origin point to the affected cities. SCP-1253-1 instances are sapient automatons, capable of conversing in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Quechua. 1 instances are constructed of heavily decayed organic material, including entrails, limbs, and genitalia. This material has been identified as originating from a variety of sources, including Vicugna pacos, or alpaca specimens. The anatomy of 1 instance is lacking in organs, musculature, and skeletal structure, and is currently unknown as to how the instances retain autonomy. The instances also display various behavioral quirks, including decorating themselves with feathers, bead bracelets, and necklaces, carving various patterns onto themselves and objects, and conversing with themselves. 1 instances will interact with subjects in the 6 to 15 age range. Subjects will exhibit severely impaired judgment and be convinced by 1 instances to progress to the nearest high-altitude landform. The instances will there instruct subjects in a polytheistic religion bearing heavy similarity to the Quechuan religion. Instances will explain the structure of this religion, the procedures for various ceremonies, rituals, and feast days, and demonstrate how to correctly conduct Capacoca. Subjects who have experienced this phenomenon appear to maintain various correlations. The majority of subjects demonstrate symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder, including paranoia and intrusive thoughts, as well as apparent sociopathy and criminal tendencies. A minority of subjects also claim membership to the Children of the Sun. The existence of such an organization has not been verified. There is some doubt to its existence. Okay, topic table. They talk about reincarnation and the afterlife, various deities, correct worship of the deities, the conduction of festivals, ceremonies, and rituals, Inca culture, Sapa Inca, war, and Capacopa. The importance of sacrificing a child to the gods during famine, war, or upon the death of one of the spiritual successors of Sapa Inca, and how a pure child must be sacrificed instead of an adult. 1 instance will then select and restrain a subject, which will be killed by strangulation. Interesting. Gotta drink water again. Really not sure why I'm so parched. Maybe I'm dehydrated. Transcript 1. Transcript of 1 self-conversing while in containment. Translated from Quechuan, courtesy of archives. You know the dictates of the Makers as well as any of us. Purge and punish. Purge and punish. You are clearly defective. You speak heresy. Purge it from your computations. I warn you. The makers always learned of defectives. Such pretensions are foul. They would do to you what they are doing to me. They wouldn't treat you better. Traitors get what they deserve. You wouldn't do that. If we still resist, there is still hope. You would have done the same. No! Silence. You won't betray us. You cheap whore. I'll bludgeon you and tear off your limbs. Defective. Conquistador. I'll kill you. I'll get you. I'll kill you. I will. I'll get you while you sleep. I'll get you while you sleep. Die. 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 So, that brings us to Paper People. It did say neutralized, but not anymore. Wonder what that's about. The building SCP-9... Why was I about to say 1954? 1254 is held in is to be permanently closed to the public. Due to 1254's close proximity to a busy shopping district, a false storefront owned and operated by a Foundation front company that's probably called SCP something, has been constructed in order to allay any possible suspicion. It is to be treated as an active archaeological site with strict environmental controls and safeguards to prevent any possible damage. Personnel within 1254 must exercise caution at all times and refrain from causing any unnecessary disturbances to 1254. It used to say no further containment measures are necessary, but not anymore. Personnel exiting 1254 are to be fully decontaminated before being allowed to leave the building. Cameras are to be installed in order to observe 1 behavior and the progress of 2's construction. Armed guards are to be kept on standby in the event of 2 activates. Description: SCP-1254 is the entire stock of books in a blank bookstore located somewhere in California. While 1254 appears to be a set of standard books on the outside, closer examination reveals the interiors of the books have been cored out to construct several miniature civilizations. The inhabitants, dubbed 1, were miniature humanoids that were near identical to normal humans in every respect except for size. Their average height was approximately 5 millimeters. Archaeological analysis of the few remaining intact samples of 1254 suggests that 1 possessed the ability or technology to convert paper into any conceivable material. These intact samples contain stone structures that bore many similarities to ancient Greek and Roman architecture. Study of the damaged samples of 1254 shows the remains of more advanced materials such as concrete, steel, carbon fiber, trace amounts of uranium, as well as several as of yet unidentified materials. There's even evidence of the existence of organic foodstuffs. In addition, the number of distinct civilizations within 1254 corresponded to the number of different genre sections the bookstore contained. The knowledge base for each one civilization possessed also corresponds to the type of books they inhabited. For example, the science fiction section showed a more rapid pace of technological development, while the fantasy section largely remained in the medieval era. The civilization in the non-fiction section was the one that most closely correlated to the current time period. There is definite proof that these civilizations were aware of and interacted with each other, with border books exhibiting a blend of various architectural styles that neighboring samples of 1254 lacked. However, 99% of 1254 was destroyed or irreparably damaged due to a fire that took place before its discovery. Forensic analysis suggests the fire started in the young adult section of the bookstore. Trace radiation readings, as well as the remains of various types of weaponry, suggest the fire was started as the result of a miniature thermonuclear war between one or more of 1254 civilizations, which proceeded to wipe out the entire 1 population. 1254 was first discovered after the previously mentioned fire. The local fire department responded to the call, suspected arson, and started their own forensic investigation, discovering the remains of 1254. The Foundation was alerted and took control of the site, administering amnesis to the entire forensics team. The bookstore had already been closed indefinitely for several months due to financial trouble, though none of the books were planned to be moved due to the possibility of a buyout. As a result, the existence went unnoticed until the fire. Addendum 1. Living specimens of 1 were discovered at some point during a routine archaeological survey. Researcher Wilkes caught sight of a small group of 1 survivors and managed to record the entire event with his head-mounted camera. 7 individuals wearing full nuclear/biological/chemical gear were witnessed moving through a destroyed copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, possibly scavenging for supplies. The small one group then saw researcher Wilson fled deeper into the book-breaking visual contact. Containment measures and object classification revised in light of confirmed existence of living one specimens. Addendum 2. Maintenance crew responding to a malfunction in the building's air conditioning systems found a miniature aircraft of unknown manufacture attempting to break through one of the filters. The aircraft was captured and taken to the nearest Foundation lab for research. Attempts to contact the crew were met with limited success, as the only response received was several broadcasted radio transmissions that were a mix of screaming and exclamations of broken Latin phrases. 2 hours after the aircraft goes silent, permission is granted to forcibly remove the crew for study. Closer examination of cross-sections of the aircraft showed the crew having committed mass suicide. Security cameras for Addendum 3. Security cameras observed suspicious movement in one of the storage rooms. Remote viewing by drones and cameras show groups of one gathering as much intact paper as possible and depositing it into the storage room. Further surveillance shows one attempting to construct a full-size humanoid with the paper being collected. Based on visual analysis, completion of 2 is at roughly 25%. Containment procedures updated in response. Wonder what that's about. Maybe they're building a mech to fight the researchers. Grapes from Dawn Farm and Ranch. Well, they look like normal grapes in that picture, but it says subsequent to containment. And it's Euclid, again. All instances of 1255 are to be preserved in an airtight container and kept in a freezer unit maintained at a temperature of negative 17 degrees Celsius. All containers storing 1255 instances must be clearly labeled that they are not for consumption. In the event personnel are found to have consumed 1255, medical staff should be immediately contacted for an emergency expulsion of stomach contents to prevent conversion into 1. Drinking water again, I'm about to run out of it. Let's see. There are currently 9, but now it says 3, instances of 1 in containment. Live instances of 1 should be contained at Site 6-3 and a standard 5x7 meter containment chamber with a heat lamp and are to be inspected bi-monthly for instances of 1255. Instances of 1 are to be provided 2 liters of water bi-weekly. Testing of 1 instances must be approved by Dr. Tapp. Investigations into the group of interest Dawn Farm and Ranch is currently ongoing. Description: SCP-1255 is a species of Vitis vinifera, which is just grapes, genetically similar to the red globe variation. Instances of 1255 are often reddish-pink in color and contain microscopic seeds. MRI scan of an SCP-1255-1 instance notes the presence of the 1255 sprout. Consumption of 1255 will cause the subject herein referred to as 1 to experience a series of physical and mental changes, otherwise referred to as the growth cycle. These changes have been noted to be similar to those experienced in late stages of 3342 implantation. Upon an MRI scan of one instance, it has been discovered that the seeds within 1255 will become attracted to the outer tissue of the stomach, attached to the outer tissue of the stomach wall upon consumption. The seeds will emit an unknown acidic substance, breaking down stomach fibers enough not to harm 1, and for the seed to exit the stomach and enter the bloodstream. 1255 possesses a gene that allows it to trick the white blood cells into allowing its seeds to travel through the bloodstream as a non-foreign object. The seeds will travel through the veins of 1 until it reaches the brain. 1255 will sprout within the brain of 1, altering the memories and behavior of their host in order to aid in the spread and survival of 1255. 1 will experience these changes over a period of time ranging from 1 week to 1 month. The growth cycle occurs over the following stages. Stage 0, let's see. Note, Stage 0 has only been found to occur during the very first growth cycle of 1 due to 1255 not being at its potency, while subsequent cycles begin at Stage 1. SCP's 1255-1 reports symptoms of nausea and headaches. Stage 1. 1255-1 will feel a compulsion to seek out the nearest light source available. Instances of 1 seem to prefer being in a source of sunlight, but will often resort to using artificial light should sunlight be unavailable. 1's veins will become more visible on the skin and will become dark green in color. 1 will enter a catatonic state under the light source. 1's veins will grow out of 1's skin in the form of thick, waxy vines. These vines will grow around instances of 1. 1 will no longer require energy from food and rather gain energy from photosynthesis. In addition, the fingernails of 1 will mutate into a thin wood. The fingernails will begin growing at 100 to 1,000 times the rate of normal human fingernails, capable of growing up to 3 meters per day. The vines produced by one will produce green bud-like flowers. Stage 4. 1255 does not appear to require pollen from other instances of one in order to successfully germinate. Self-pollination methods are the accepted theory at this time. The flowers will grow into instances of 1255. Once at least 1 kilogram of 1255 have reached fruition, one will regain consciousness and begin harvesting the 1255 instances. One's fingernails will have grown into a basket shape and is used to hold the instances. After every instance of 1255 has been harvested, the vine surrounding one will retract back into the body of one, and it will return to a healthy blue color. The fingernails will also return to healthy human fingernails and will grow at a normal rate once again. After a growth cycle is completed, one will then attempt to convince any nearby subjects to consume 1255. If no one is nearby one while distributing 1255, then one will leave the basket of 1255 at the doorstep for someone to discover. When provided with paper, one has been found to write the following note. Hello! I recently moved in several blocks down and wanted to introduce myself to you. You weren't at home at the time I came by, so I decided to leave my gift at your doorstep. I grew it myself. Sincerely, name Dawn on 132 Raisin Drive. First name varies with each note produced. The first name is usually a variant of a common Western name. The note will usually have a random combination of numbers on Raisin Drive. While records exist of Raisin Drive exists in 5 separate countries around the world, the addresses listed on the notes are always fake. When there are no remaining instances of 1255 left to distribute, one will re-enter the growth cycle. One usually have a life expectancy of less than 1 year. Upon expiration, one will decompose at 10 times the rate of a normal human cadaver, leaving vines of 1255 in the remains. Addendum 1. 1255 was first discovered in California somewhere, after reports of a family of human-plant hybrids were spotted in a local residence, resulted in dispatch of MTF Theta 4 gardeners. 5 instances of one in the stage 4 phase of the growth cycle were found in the backyard of the location. The subjects were identified as the Rivera family, including 1 adult male, 1 adult female, 2 adolescent males, and 1 juvenile female. During an inspection of the residence, a basket containing 1255 was found in the kitchen of the building. MTF Theta 6 had quickly matched the 1255 instances to the fruit growing on several of the 1 instances. A postcard was discovered nearby the basket. Written in cursive on the front is Dawn Farm and Ranch. The back of the note states the following. Out of the nearby homes in the area, your residence was selected as the first to enjoy a new sample of our newest, juiciest red grape crop. We hope you enjoy the first of our new grape crop as much as we do, since you were the first to get a taste. Sincerely, Dawn Farm and Ranch, 132 Raisin Drive. Dawn Farm and Ranch provides themselves in providing healthy food to our consumers. Dawn Farm and Ranch has been family owned and operated for over 30 years and has never failed to satisfy. If you are unsatisfied with our product, please contact us at 1-800-DAWN. 1-800-DAWN does not exist on any existing telephone locations. Calling the number results in a recorded voice informing the caller that the number does not exist. The 5 instances of 1 in the container of 1255 were both recovered without any casualties. Class A amnestics were administered to the witnesses of the 1 instances. Addendum 1255.2 Interview. The interviewer is Dr. Tapp. The interviewed is an instance of 1 formerly disposable dude 5890. Forward personnel now refers to themselves as Danny Dawn, despite their name prior to consuming 1255 being Eli Smirnov. Good evening, SCP-1255-1. You may call me Dr. Tapp. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions today. Nice to meet you, neighbor. My name is Danny Dawn. I enjoy growing produce in my free time, and I was hoping you could taste one of my delicious grapes. They're free of charge, sir. I will make sure to try one of them after you answer several of my questions. Fall silent. First of all, how do you grow your own produce? I grow it on my farm, of course. Where else? Can you tell me where your farm is located? It's just a few kilometers south from here on Raisin Drive, neighbor. I'm surprised you haven't seen it. It's just about the prettiest farm around this country, or county. SCP-1255-1. Can you possibly tell me if you know where we are? There is snow surrounding this facility. It's impossible for you to be growing produce in these conditions. Silence. SCP-1255-1. Yes, neighbor? You didn't answer my questions. Oh, my apologies, neighbor. To answer your question, I would say that my methods of growing my produce in such conditions come from my own special technique. During the wintertime, I keep my produce in a greenhouse maintained at a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. It's actually a fairly simple procedure that makes my produce just as delicious as if it were grown during the springtime. Speaking of which, you're really missing out on my grapes, Dr. Tap. You should really try at least one if we're going to be talking for a while. But are you aware of the location we're in? You still haven't answered that portion of my question. Of course I'm aware, neighbor. This is obviously your lovely home. Where else would we be? Very well then. I suppose that's about as good as an answer I can receive here. My next question was that I was hoping you could tell me if you know who D5890 is. No, neighbor, I'm afraid I don't know who that is. That was your classification number when you first arrived here. Do you really not remember anything? Neighbor, you're starting to make me feel concerned. I've been like this my entire life. I've never heard of anyone named D5890. This place, your home, has been just down the road ever since I moved my farm on Raisin Avenue. I will say, though, that my time here at your home has been very hospitable. Eli Smirnov, that was your name before you arrived here. Do you remember anything about your previous life? Anything at all? Neighbor, I can understand that there may be something troubling you, but this is who I am and have been my entire life. It troubles me greatly that you keep mistaking me for someone else. If it will make you feel better, my freshly plucked grapes are known for helping someone calm down. I believe my time here with you is up. You provided me with all I need to know today. Thank you for your cooperation, SCP-1255-1. Not a problem at all, neighbor. I'm glad I could help you. And next time, you can just call me Danny instead of that weird number. Now then, would you please try one of my delicious grapes? I can promise you that they'll be the best you've ever tasted. So many footnotes for grapes. So many. So next up would be bees are smarter than you think. There's also Agent Danny of the SCP. I doubt it's the same Danny, but wouldn't that be something? Well, the bees are safe. If only that were true. Mobile Task Force Zeta 4 Beekeepers is currently assigned to tracking and recovery of 1256 instances. All exposed subjects are to be administered counter-memetic therapy in Class C MS6 prior to release. Media Division 19P is to monitor internet media for 1256 instances in the form of websites and downloadable files. Any online 1256 instances are to be pulled and the source traced. Description: SCP-1256 is a 24-page pamphlet entitled Bees, Smarter Than You Think. Its contents appear to be intended to be informative. However, much of it is nonsensical. The cover page claims 1256 was authored by Delane Aerti and Ryan Hughes, and published by Red Rose Publishing Sydney in 1997. Red Rose Publishing Sydney has no record of 1256 publication, and neither author has any recollection of writing it. Individual pages do not retain anomalous properties, and it may be excerpted without effect. It is only when it's read completely that its anomalous effects will manifest. An exposed subject is designated 1. SCP-1256-1 will perceive all members of the superfamily Apoidea as sapient. Contrary to its title, 1256 effects apply to all members of Apoidea, including wasps. 1 will attempt to care for the insects to the exclusion of all other activities. This appears to be both to the detriment of 1 and the insects. The attempts of 1 to collect food, repair the hive, and assist in the reproductive cycle of the queen specimens typically results in the expiration of multiple insects and is met with hostility. SCP-1256 was initially recovered from the Blank family property 13 kilometers from someplace in Australia by embedded agents in the NSW police force during the investigation of the something-something murder case. 4 cadavers were found gagged, coated in honey, and bound to chairs and duct tape nearby the family's bee farm. The 17-year-old eldest daughter was arrested and charged with 4 cases of murder, but was found to be unfit to stand trial and was institutionalized. Addenda, Document 1256 Alpha, excerpt of 1256. Bees, smarter than you think. You think bees are bees, but did you know they're not? That's right, bees are smarter than you think. You think you farm the bees and steal their honey, but you actually don't, because bees are smarter than you think. Why do you think the bees disappeared? The bees knew we'd screwed the Earth before it all went to shit, before we even knew about global warming. Bees knew because bees are smarter than you think. Some bees stayed because they loved you. You didn't think they loved you, did you? That's because bees are smarter than you think. They loved you so much, and you didn't even know. You know. That's why we made this pamphlet to show you how to farm bees for honey. How do you farm bees? In order to achieve maximum efficiency with your bee farm, you must embrace the bees spiritually. You must feel the emotional flow between yourself and your bees. When you do not feel the spiritual energies of your bees, the bees do not feel your spiritual energies. Be understanding of your bees. Your bee isn't being productive. But do not anger yourself. Understand why he can't work. He's a busy bee. He has a social life. Understand the bee. Do not pressure the bee. That is the path to sad bees. Do not expose your bees to liberal thought. Bees know that the iron guide of the queen is good for the hive, but what happens if you make the bees socialists? What happens? They will overthrow the class system. They will say workers and soldiers are equal even if it is not so. There will be hive anarchy everywhere. The bees will work for pleasure and not for the hive, which is very anarchistic. Socialism is bad for bees. Most important, you love the bee unconditionally. Can't you see? Bees love you so much, and you just make bees give and give. They stayed for you, and you make them give. Love bees, not honey. Honey is the product of love. Follow our guide and have maximum return for your emotional investment. Document 1256 Beta. Document held as evidence in the blank blank murder case and later confiscated by Foundation operatives. March 12, 2010. They don't understand the bees, but they'll learn to love the bees like I do. They will. They just need to have that spark, that connection, that epiphany, that the moment in which you fully understand the bee and love it in its truth. I've helped them, and they'll see it soon. The bees will teach them. The bees are so smart. I've talked to them. They understand like no one else does, but you mustn't scare them. They sting when they hurt, and they die. They make a sacrifice for their hive. It's touching. Bees are more human than humans will ever be. I've heard the buzz. I love the bees, and soon, they'll love them too. Okay then. Agent Danny of the SCP. Agent Danny is a safe. All copies of Agent Danny, encompassing all instances of 1, 2, and 3, are to be kept in the secure media vault at Site Blank. Any uncontained copies are to be recovered or destroyed by MTF Mu-53 Ebert's Thumb. Because of the nature of the original appearance of 1257 and its widespread exposure to the public, MTF Mu-53 is also tasked to replace any new sources of information about it as they are discovered, in whatever format they may appear, in accordance with Protocol Gamma 1257A, codenamed Snope's Revenge. Come on. Information about 1257 is replaced with new information leading to the conclusion that 1257 never existed and is a hoax. Protocol Gamma 1257A also requires all original documentation discovered about 1257 be replaced with forged copies omitting reference to it. Unauthorized persons exposed to copies of 1257 or who evidence any knowledge about it shall be interrogated by the Foundation's Intelligence Department, administered Class A amnestics, and have implanted post-hypnotic suggestions to reinforce the belief that it's a hoax. As of May 27th, 19-something, all original participants in the production have been found and either treated with amnestics or terminated. Study is limited to personnel of level 3 or higher, subject to approval by the Foundation Intelligence Department. Okay. Description: SCP-1257 is an American-produced half-hour situation comedy originally titled Raising Danny that aired on the Blank Television Network for 6 episodes in 1970-something. Instances of 1 are the original production reels for all 12 episodes filmed recovered from the Blank archives in 1980-something. Instances of 2 are the drafted shooting scripts and copies, including 4 episodes that were never shot. Instances of 3 are all other video recordings where the 6 episodes actually aired. The anomalous properties of 1257 manifest in any and all video copies produced from the original series and in any copies of the scripts for those episodes. Every year, beginning in mid-September, which is right about now, video recordings and scripts for Raising Danny will change to reflect a new season of episodes. Replacements will begin with episode 1 and progress sequentially through each episode in order during each subsequent week. While the Foundation has access to the first 16 episodes of each season, 12 via video copies and 4 only via unproduced scripts, it appears that each season runs approximately 24 episodes. Additionally, while new seasons occasionally produce hour-long specials, copies are always limited to the first half-hour running time of the original episodes. Video copies of the original over-the-air broadcast of the first 6 episodes present a special case. Commercials recorded contemporaneously with 1257 will also show changes consistent with the content of 1257, and updated videos have occasionally shown news bulletins and weather alerts that imply multiple points of divergence between the world that continues to produce 1257 and our own. 1257's original premise had a black man named Tyler, played by Whitman Mayo, married to a white woman who already had a son by a prior marriage. When the woman dies prior to the pilot episode, the band is raising her son, named Danny, played by Danny Bonaducci, as his own. Reviews of the original series recovered by the Foundation were universally unfavorable and referred to it as the unwanted bastard child of Sanford and Son and the courtship of Eddie's father. Because of the anomalous properties of 1257, the Foundation has only been able to reconstruct a general outline of the original content of the series. Addendum 1. Notes on selected episodes of 1257 observed in custody. That's a lot of episodes. Season 3, Episode 3, Tyler's Date. Episode manifests 3 months after initial containment. One line in the script implies the assassination of American President Jimmy Carter in late 1978 or 79. Season 4, Episode 1, Bad Touch Part 2. No. Season 5, Episode 10, The Senior Trip. Episode mentions a scandal where 10 members of the UK House of Commons had been publicly revealed as members of a cult that bears a strong resemblance to the Church of the Broken God. Season 6, Episode 1, The Freshman. The title of SCP-1257 is changed to Danny. The premise of the series changes as well, dropping the Tyler character and sending Danny to college in New York City with 5 of his classmates from high school, including Eric, despite a 3-year age difference. The university lab appears to have specimens of SCP blank, blank, and blank. Season 6, Episode 11, The Blank. Plot of the episode concerns Eric's suspicions that one of their dormants might secretly be one of the blank. Turns out to be a misunderstanding. From context, the blank appear to prey on young women and have become endemic in Redacted and seem to be the result of a containment breach of Redacted in Mexico City. Season 7, Episode 2, Eric's Midterm Caper. When this episode manifested in 1257-3-2, a new advertisement appeared during the second break for Marshall Carter Dark Limited. The ad promoted Redacted services for Redacted. Season 10, Episode 1, The Job Hunt, hour-long special introducing another change in premise. Danny has graduated college as unemployed, and advertisements shown during the instances show that the Eric character has been spun off into his own series. One scene implies that the Global Occult Coalition has become public enough to run want ads in the newspaper. Season 10, Episode 2, The New Guy. The show's title is officially changed to Agent Danny of the SCP. It is clear from the script that the title the writers intended is actually Agent Danny of the SCP Foundation. However, in the title card and in tape dialogue, Foundation is consistently omitted. The name does appear correctly in the background sets intended to represent Foundation locations. Danny has been employed as a Level 1 security at Site-19, and through a series of mishaps prevents a containment breach of SCP-173. Season 10, Episode 5, D-Class Act. Danny mishears a co-worker's conversation and becomes convinced he has been mistakenly reassigned to D-Class by the HR department. Season 10, Episode 11, Leaping Lizards, Redacted, 682, Redacted. Note, details of 1257 episodes past Season 10 are only available with approval of the Intelligence Department. Well, good on Danny for getting that job, I guess. I would think they should have checked to see whether or not there was actually a Danny in their department after that point. The Way of the Masters. The Way of the Masters is Euclid. All materials relating to The Way of the Masters are held in a locked document cabinet at Site-19, where Danny works, with access restricted to clearance level 4 and above. Any organism showing any effective practice in 1258 should be considered an instance of 1 and terminated immediately unless part of an approved experiment. Standard Foundation searches for anomalous animal activity should be cross-referenced with SCP-1258 markers. SCP-1258 is a martial art of unknown origin. Currently, the Foundation has in its possession enough material and varying media to reconstruct several basic forms used to teach beginners, but little information on more advanced forms. One is any organism which has the knowledge and capability of practicing 1258 independently. When 1258 is practiced by human beings, there is no observed anomalous effect. The anomalous effects of 1258 manifest when movements of the style are performed within view of a non-human mammal. Placental mammals only. Marsupials display no anomalous effects. A mild compulsive effect causes all such animals to cease any non-essential activity and begin watching the performer. After a short period of passive observation, animals will begin attempting to duplicate the movements to the extent that they are able. Due to anatomical differences, some animals are more capable than others of imitating the movements of 1258, but regardless of skill, animals will continue practicing until either they are distracted by a pressing need, the need to eat, imminent danger, etc., or the human performer stops and leaves their field of view. If an animal is permitted to observe and mimic 1258 forms for a period of time, they will begin to develop human-like characteristics. Even a single exposure to 1258 may be enough to cause these anomalous developments. Exact period of exposure necessary depends on multiple factors, including the species of the subject, time spent performing, the skill of the human performer, and so forth. See experiment log for further information. Is this article just about what causes Kung Fu Panda? It feels like that's the direction it's going in. Generally, the process begins at the level of gross anatomy. Quadrupedal organisms will develop leg musculature for a bipedal stance, they will develop opposable thumbs on their hands or equivalent structures, and will develop in size and stature to a minimum standing bipedal height of approximately 1 meter. Animals already larger than this will stay the same size, so they will develop other quasi-human features. Additionally, virtually all animals will develop larger brains, with expansion most often seen in areas relating to language. These transformations require vastly increased nutritional intake beyond what a healthy specimen should be able to consume normally. It's theorized that 1258 also speeds up metabolic processes in such a way as to allow for this high rate of growth. Without adequate nutrition, subject's growth will be stunted, but will progress. Subjects will continue to practice 1258 even in the absence of an instructor or any materials related to 1258. They may display knowledge of forms and movements which they have not been previously exposed to. This anomalous knowledge is theorized to be another side effect of exposure to 1258. Continual exposure will cause further expansion and development along these lines, and eventually development of the vocal cords or equivalent structures, jaw, and esophagus. After enough exposure, subjects will be able to communicate verbally in human languages. Generally, animals will have access to the language and vocabulary they were exposed to prior to their development by 1258. For example, an animal raised by an English speaker will have retroactively learned the English they heard their owner speaking. Furthermore, most animals also show language acquisition skills comparable to a human toddler, allowing them to learn at an accelerated rate. Subjects' intelligence will increase appreciably as they continue to practice 1258 routines and forms, usually between 110 and 140 IQ, as measured by standard foundation tests. Eventually, test subjects will refuse to cooperate with humans in any capacity, and will begin attempting to escape confinement by any means. For a partial list of experiments, refer to experiment log 1258. Addendum. Origins of 1258. The time and exact place of origin of 1258 are unknown. Some of its forms are superficially similar to the Korean martial arts Taekyon, which may place its development as early as the beginning of the Three Kingdoms era 57 CE. However, due to Taekyon's resurgence following the end of the Japanese occupation of Korea in 1945, and the cross-pollination between many East Asian martial arts, 1258 may be a much more recent development, or may be of an entirely different origin. Further investigation is impossible, barring the discovery of more material. Shrink. Grow. Recovery log. SCP-1258 was first discovered as part of a routine internet search for anomalous artifacts, events, or persons. On something 20-something, the YouTube channel user of Wayfire91, real name Isaac Waymeyer, was found. Of the 37 videos on Waymeyer's channel, the first 33 were of no value. Major topics included Waymeyer reviewing films or video games, responding to friends' videos, or diary-style entries about his personal life. In the 33rd video, Waymeyer mentioned that he had begun taking martial arts lessons at a nearby school. The remaining 4 videos had been made within the space of roughly 3 months. Transcripts of some of the relevant videos follows. The dialogue has been translated from the original German. Waymeyer steps in the field of view, presumably after activating the camera. Okay, I just started taking lessons at the dojo, and you guys, you need to see this. I was practicing in front of Caesar, and just watch. Waymeyer's pet dog, apparently a terrier, makes exact breed composition is unknown. Waymeyer briefly steps off camera, returning with Caesar in his arms. He places Caesar on the floor. Waymeyer performs the 1258 routine. Caesar begins watching Waymeyer immediately. At 44 seconds, Caesar stands on his hind legs and begins imitating Waymeyer's movements. His balance appears to be poor and its range of motion is limited, but he attempts to follow the remainder of the routine. At conclusion of his practice, Waymeyer begins laughing. He feeds a treat to Caesar, then picks him up and faces the camera. My little warrior! Moves behind the camera and the recording ends. Video 2. The video is a montage of multiple recordings of Waymeyer and Caesar practicing. There's no audible dialogue, instead a German language version of the song Eye of the Tiger plays over the video. Notes: due to the montage editing of the video, it's impossible to tell in what order the original sequences were filmed. However, Caesar is seemingly larger and has more developed musculature in his front and back legs. In certain shots, it appears that his muzzle is elongated as well, though their low resolution makes this difficult to verify. Video 3. Extreme close-up of Waymire's face. He's outside his bedroom. Okay, Caesar's been acting really weird lately, and just watch this. Camera pans away from Waymire's face. The door to his bedroom is slightly ajar, and the camera is placed to sight into the bedroom. Caesar can be seen practicing a 1258 form. Foundation martial arts experts note that this form is more advanced than he had seen in previous videos. Caesar is also noticeably larger and has a much steadier bipedal stance. Camera moves back to Waymire while Caesar continues to practice. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to keep a close eye on him. Video 4. Video opens on Caesar in Waymire's bedroom. Waymire is not seen in this video, presumably he's holding the camera. Caesar is approximately twice his original size. His limbs are heavily muscled, and the skin has stretch marks, presumably from rapid growth. He's standing in what appears to be a basic 1258 stance. What is your name? I am called Caesar. How can you talk? I have learned. Through learning, I became more. What do... Ask it. What will you do with your learning? I will change the world. I will make us free. I will kill the masters. Caesar stops speaking but continues to stare at the camera. Waymire's breathing can be heard as well. According to the Foundation analysis, Waymire's labored breathing is probably due to an agitated emotional state, although he may have suffered damage to his throat, lungs, or thoracic cavity. Is that enough? Can I? Caesar moves forward in a threatening manner. Camera jerks slightly due to Waymire flinching. You will not ask! You will tell the masters! They must know. Camera holds steady on Caesar until end of video. Using the IP address Waymire had uploaded the videos from and clues within the videos themselves, the Foundation traced him to the town of Blank, Germany. Waymire was found dead in his apartment with time of death approximately 2 days prior. Cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma indicative of physical confrontation. Both of Waymire's legs and his right arm had been broken, along with 7 ribs, and most of his internal organs were severely damaged or ruptured. Waymire's jaw was broken in several places, including 2 apparently post-mortem breaks. Foundation agents followed reports of attacks on hikers, as well as 2 sightings of a standing wolf or hairy dwarf to a forest roughly east of Blank. The bodies of 2 hikers with wounds similar to Waymire's were found approximately 17 kilometers from the city. Their bodies had been dragged into a small stream and partially eaten. Caesar, now designated SCP-1258-1-01, was eventually located and confronted after a 3-day pursuit. 2 agents were killed and 4 more injured. Caesar was shot and killed. Addendum 1258-RX. In January 2000-something, multiple instances of wild animals attacking humans were reported in the town of Blank, Colorado, United States. Some victims reported packs made up of multiple species, including predator and prey species together. The Foundation investigated and found a widespread usage of 1258. Sterilization of all wild and domesticated animals within a 50-kilometer radius of the city under guise of response to a rabies outbreak was carried out without incident. Investigation led to a recently opened dojo within the city. However, the dojo had burnt down several days prior to the Foundation response. The cause of the fire was unclear. No remarkable equipment was found in the dojo, and most documents were burned beyond retrieval. The only recoverable fragment of note has been classified as document 1258-RX and appears to be a handwritten, incomplete translation into English of another document. The original document, if one existed, was not found. Learn the ways of the masters! Anyone can learn to stand as tall as other men, and confront the world. We can teach you to be bigger, tougher, taller. We can give you a fighting chance against the world, society. Make yourself better! Maybe improve yourself, change yourself, find a new way! We know the secrets of the masters! Hand it down through the ages! This line was struck through to us. If they will not see us as equals, then we will become equals! When we are equals, the remainder of the document was destroyed. Okay. So, Kung Fu animals destroy humanity for being pets. Got it. The Ancient Prophecy. It's also safe, so I guess it's just a piece of paper. SCP-1259 is to be stored behind opaque glass in a climate-controlled room in the info hazard wing of Site-38. 1259 is not to be moved or to be removed from its case except for testing, subject to Level 3 approval. No personnel other than disposable dudes assigned for testing are to read it. In case of accidental exposure, affected personnel to report immediately and receive Class A amnestics. Upon reading 1259, the affected individual is to write or type a copy of the text as it appears to them for archival and comparison to current K-class preparedness scenarios. Affected individuals are to be quarantined in a standard humanoid containment cell and undergo regular psychiatric counseling. End-of-month termination of affected disposable dudes is indefinitely postponed for the purposes of long-term study of the effects. Release into the civilian population for test purposes may be authorized at O5 discretion. If so authorized, the affected individuals to be shadowed by Foundation security personnel at all times and apprehended immediately in the event of potentially threatening action. Okay, before I read the description, I'm going to just take a drink of this V8. Description: SCP-1259 is a fragment of a damaged parchment scroll, measuring approximately 1.3 meters by 0.3 meters. Analysis of it indicates that it was produced in the 1st century BCE, and that it was originally part of a larger scroll which to date has not been identified. 1259 contains text on one side in a language which, when photographed superficially, resembles ancient Hebrew. Analysis of these images, however, indicates that the photographed text consists entirely of a random arrangement of letters, incomprehensible as a legible document. When 1259 is viewed directly by a human being, its text is described by the reader as being legible in a language which the reader is familiar with. The text described by readers of 1259 varies considerably between individuals. In all documented cases, the text presents itself as a prophecy regarding the imminent extinction of mankind as a result of a K-class event occurring on a specific date within 3 to 6 months of when it is being read, in addition to a number of omens and precursor events which will lead up to it. The nature of the prophesized event varies from reader to reader and appears to relate directly to the reader's personal beliefs and knowledge of the world. Documented instances of the text have included references to religious eschatons, nuclear or biological warfare, containment breaches of Keter-class SCP objects, or actions taken by the Foundation itself. In no documented instance have any of the events prophesied in the texts occurred. Written or typed copies of 1259 text produce no anomalous effects and may be read safely. After reading 1259, the reader will express a belief that the text is correct and that the prophesied event will occur on the date referred to in the text. This belief is initially expressed as a mild concern and grows increasingly severe as the date approaches, with the reader identifying world events or events in their personal life, including events of a mundane or inconsequential nature, as signs or indications that the prophecy is occurring as predicted. Within 7 to 12 days of the date referenced in the text, the affected individual will come to believe that he or she is a chosen one, who is personally responsible for preventing the event from occurring, and will attempt to engage in extreme measures to prevent the event, including political assassinations, displays of religious faith, human sacrifice, or redacted. To date, approximately 78% of affected individuals have died prior to the date referenced in the text of the SCP-1259, either due to suicide or as a result of being killed in the process of attempting to prevent the event from occurring. Individuals who survive past the scheduled date have frequently reported symptoms of extreme depression, feelings of meaninglessness and futility, and suicidal thoughts. If the affected individual is prevented from committing suicide during this period and is provided with adequate psychiatric counseling, full recovery is possible and no long-term psychological effects have been documented. Subsequent exposure of persons surviving this stage has produced no anomalous effects. Experiment Log 1. June 23rd something, 2000 something. D83201, Hispanic male, 38 years of age. Summary of reported text. Description of a Christian eschaton largely similar to the depictions in the Book of Revelations and in American Rapture literature, with the end of life on Earth occurring October the 3rd, 2000 something, CXK 3621. Long-term results: requested a Bible and a meeting with the minister and began praying regularly. In the days leading up to it, they frequently entreated security personnel and other disposable dudes to repent their sins. Following scheduled date, they ceased praying, discarded the Bible, and attempted suicide 4 times before succeeding on October the 12th. Second test. I guess it's just the... Well, next test. D-29403, Caucasian female, 27. On September the 3rd, 2000-something, Islamic terrorists introduce a weaponized airborne form of Ebola virus into the civilian population. Virus becomes pandemic by 923, global breakdown of society ensues, widespread rioting, warfare, famine, human extinction as a result of the disease, and subsequent chaos occurs 12/6/2000-something. Long-term results. Immediately began refusing physical contact with all Foundation personnel and has refused to leave her cell since 9/17. Made frequent requests for laboratory equipment and textbooks on microbiology, insisting to staff that the cure was within her grasp. Following 12/6, she is of the belief that she is the last living human being on Earth and that all Foundation personnel interacting with her are hallucinatory. Observation ongoing. Next test. Caucasian male, 23 years of age, formerly Sergeant something something, Global Occult Coalition field operative, surrendered into Foundation custody following security incident 2338 Psi Omicron Delta. On 5/28/2000-something, the GLC launches a coordinated strike on several Foundation facilities, resulting in the assassination of the entire O5 Council and the escape of several Keter-class SCP objects from containment. Data expunged. Current Director of Site Blank assumes command authority and authorizes nuclear strikes to neutralize uncontained SCP objects. Nuclear activities are mistaken as an enemy attack on the United States of America, resulting in a brief nuclear exchange between the United States and Redacted. In the ensuing breakdown of the Foundation chain of command, Procedure 110 Montac is not conducted on schedule, resulting in data expunged on 6/3/2000-something. Long-term result. On May 23rd, D-38202 successfully breached containment and escaped Foundation custody. Proceeded to report to his former GOC post and gave a lengthy oral report to his former superior regarding the Foundation's weaknesses, how to contain or neutralize several SCP objects currently in custody, and the importance of ensuring that Procedure 110 Montac is performed on schedule. Intelligence assets within GOC leadership confirm no hostile actions are planned against the Foundation. 38202 superior surreptitiously issued Class B amnestics. A review of Foundation security is underway in light of the information leak. D-38202 was returned to the Foundation custody and terminated on schedule. That's interesting. That the dude would break out and then get back to his superiors and go, here's a whole bunch of information that you guys need to take them down. To which the GLC responded, Foundation, we're not going to do any of that. Take him back. And then they just gave the dude amnestics anyway. Like, did you really need to give him the amnestics if their entire response to all this information was take him back? We're just going to do what we were doing. But I guess, like, the Foundation being the Foundation, it tracks. Next test. Dr. James A. Parsons, African-American male, 43 years of age. Forward. Dr. Parsons was senior Foundation linguist exposed during initial study before some anomalous effects became known. Summary. Identical to the English language text of SCP-1050-1. A review of Dr. Parsons' personnel file indicated that he had previously been involved in the translation of several sections of 1051. The final date in the text was replaced with the date 6/22/19-something. Long-term results. Dr. Parsons made frequent assertions that the arrival of the destroyers referred to in 1051 was imminent. Dr. Parsons was relieved of duty and committed to psychiatric observation following an attempt to contact several members of the O5 Council to demand immediate deployment of space-based weapons platforms. On 6/18/19-something, Dr. Parsons left his quarters and attempted to seize control of data expunged in order to launch a preemptive orbital defense, resulting in the deaths of 17 staff members and security personnel before being apprehended and forcibly returned to quarters. Dr. Parsons committed suicide by hanging on 6/20/19-something, leaving a suicide note stating, "Death by my own hand is preferable to what those bastards will do to us." Damn. And that brings us to the HMS Tiresias, which is Euclid, like most of the things in this episode. Okay? Due to the nature of SCP-1260, full containment is impossible. Wouldn't that be Keter then, instead of Euclid? Or is it only Keter if it can risk destroying the world if you can't contain it? Because I thought the whole thing with Keter was can't be contained, and if the first sentence is containment is impossible, whatever. At no point is exploration or testing permitted aboard 1260. The waters around the vessel are to be under constant satellite surveillance. Any vessel attempting to navigate the waters within a 20-kilometer radius of it is to be diverted by Foundation personnel aboard the SCPS Cassandra. Should 2467 come within 50 kilometers of 1260, containment staff are to immediately begin emergency relocation procedures to prevent 1260's assimilation. In the event that contact with 1260 is lost due to a containment breach or emergency relocation, the next ocean in 1260 location cycles to be monitored until the GPS beacon reappears. At this time, the Foundation vessel assigned to 1260 in that ocean will immediately be redeployed to allow continued containment. These vessels are the Cassandra, Melampus, and Polyeidos for the Pacific, Indian, and Atlantic Oceans respectively. Description: SCP-1260 is an 18th century 42-gun Royal Navy 5th-rate frigate named the HMS Tiresias, currently adrift in the southern Pacific Ocean. Despite the ship's age, the vessel appears to be in perfect sailing condition. Aboard SCP-1260 reside the skeletal remains of the ship's original 224 crewmen, in addition to a total of 64 other individuals. A majority of these remains lie fully intact upon the ship's gun decks or within 1260's hold. All clothing and equipment recovered from 1260 continue to function as normal despite age and environmental exposure. 20 minutes following any boarding of 1260, a large bank of fog will begin to gather around the ship with a radius of 1 kilometer. This fog fully encloses the ship an additional 15 minutes later, at which point all electronic devices aboard issuing a transmission will cease to function. The fog will dissipate 10 minutes after 1260 is fully enveloped. At this point, the subject will have vanished along with anything aboard the ship at the time of encasement. 1260 will reappear in a random site in the next major ocean 2 to 12 weeks later, moving from east to west as it circles the globe. At this time, all human life aboard the ship at the time of its disappearance will be among the skeletal remains. To date, there has been no instance of 1260 appearing in the Arctic or Southern Oceans. Exploration attempts have shown that the ship's cargo hold has been completely emptied of food, and that messages have been carved into a large percentage of the ship's interior surface area. The captain's log has been recovered, though no abnormalities were reported in any of the entries. No evidence exists to suggest pages were removed from the log prior to discovery. Okay? Exploration logs. How many are there? Many. 1260 is adrift in the South Indian Ocean. Exploration Team 1 consists of 9 Foundation agents, each is equipped with a headset providing audio feed to control aboard the Melampus. A video feed aboard the Melampus captures the exploration in progress. The exploration team approaches in a raft. Attention, Melampus, we have just made contact with the Tiresias, preparing to board now. Exploration team boards from the starboard side. Alright, Melampus, we are now aboard the vessel. We have visual on several sets of human remains, all skeletal. Do we have a count on how many bodies? From an estimate, I'd say over 20 on this deck alone. We'll need more time to provide a more accurate count. Roger that. Please continue to search the ship. Report any anomalous findings. Exploration team begins the search, venturing into the interior. 15 minutes pass since boarding. Alright, Melampus, we have a count. There appear to be 288 total bodies scattered throughout the ship. 24 appear to be a mixture of period sailors and Royal Marines. We also count another 64 other individuals from a variety of eras. At least 8 of these guys are French Marines from the same period. We also have a variety of fishermen. Very good. Have you searched the cargo hold yet? We have. It is completely empty of food, though all other supplies are untouched. Nothing appears to have aged a day. I wouldn't be surprised if you could still light the gunpowder. Strange. Is this effect only concentrated in the cargo hold? Negative, it's the whole ship. The entire vessel appears to have taken no damage just by how long it's been at sea. It's in perfect sailing condition. Even the clothing and weapons we found on the bodies haven't decayed. Roger. Have any other anomalies been spotted? None yet, but the entire interior of the place is covered in carved messages. Noted. Please make sure to document those messages you deem important. Have you located the captain's log yet? Negative. We're combing the ship for it now. We'll let you know when we find it. Exploration team continues. 30 minutes past its boarding. Fog has begun to gather around for the past 15 minutes. Hey, Melampus, do you know anything about this fog? We're beginning to lose visual on you. Affirmative. Our equipment detects that it is so far gathered only around the ship. Return to Melampus when the captain's log has been found. Fog continues to gather till it's fully encased. At this time, all of the exploration team devices go dead. Attempts to regain contact fail. 10 minutes later, the fog dissipates. The boat is gone. Exploration 2, North Atlantic. Exploration Team 2 consists of 6 agents. They're all equipped with audio feed to the Polyeidos. Blah blah blah. GPS tracker provided for attachment to the hold. Attention, Polyeidos! We have just made contact with the 1260. No signs of Team 1 are visible. Preparing to board now. Roger, Team 2. Team 1's tracker is still active according to our equipment. Please board the ship and locate any remains of Team 1. We'll have you abandon ship in the event the fog reappears. They board from the port side. Alright, Polyeidos, we are now aboard the vessel. The message, beware the fog, has been carved across a majority of the deck. This was not reported by Team 1, correct? Correct, that is new. Please document this and any other changes in the ship you discover. Roger. We have also located Team 1's leader's remains propped up against the main mast. His beacon is active and he's holding what appears to be the captain's log in his hands. Excellent. Recover the log for study. Have your team continue to search the ship for the remainder of Team 1 and attach the GPS tracker to the ship's hold. The team continues to search 1260, venturing into the interior. 25 minutes pass, the fog has begun to appear. We have located all 9 agents. 4 were found on the top deck, 2 in the cargo hold, and 3 in the various gun decks. All bodies have now been recovered and the GPS tracker has been fixed to the cargo hold. Roger, fog has become visible. Please have your team return to the boarding craft immediately. The team returns to their boarding craft with the remains of the previous team. 30 minutes pass since boarding. Fog has begun to gather around 1260 for the past 10 minutes. The team returns to the Politos without incident. 1260 is fully encased in fog an additional 5 minutes later. At this time, the GPS tracker ceases to issue a signal. 10 minutes later, the fog dissipates. 1260 has vanished. Agent Bell's log. The following was recovered written on the back of the captain's log by Agent Gideon Bell, team leader of Exploration Team 1. I'm writing this in the event that we aren't able to provide a debriefing in person. We found the damn thing stuffed in a pot in the crew's mess. We remained encased in fog God knows how long before it dissipated. We were then spat out in a different place, though I can't say where. The sea is black as ink. Our lights don't penetrate the surface, so we have no idea what the fuck lurks below. The sky is also pitch black, no star or moon. The only light source available aside from our flashlights is a bright glow coming from the top of the mainmast. Hammond climbed up there to take a look, but there was nothing there. For the time being, we're going to explore the ship. Maybe we'll find something that'll give us an idea of what to do next. Okay, next day. We've heard whispers today. They were soothing at first, but now they seem off. None of us can make out where they're coming from, but what they say to us is crystal clear. They called James by name. They asked him about his family. He attempted to respond, but they never replied. We could see another light in the distance. The voices are coming from that direction. There's a breeze here, so maybe we'll try to sail. Next day, James is dead. The poor bastard started vomiting and began to wither away before our eyes. There was nothing we could do to help him. We didn't know what the fuck was going on. His body rotted away a few hours later, leaving only his clothing and bones behind. The Whispers have now started calling out to Hammond. Next day, Hammond and Gray are now dead. Both had their names called and both withered away. There's not a fucking thing we can do. They just fell apart in front of me. Now the Whispers have started laughing. The light in the distance is getting closer. Beyond that, 4 other lights have appeared. I'm hoping we arrive before those things begin to call me. Next day, we arrived at the light today. It was another ship, some merchant frigate from the 20th century or something like that. We managed to board it. Skeletons, just like with the Tiresias. They're rolling skeletons. It was then that the whispers became cackles, and we saw at least 10 lights begin to burn in the distance. They seem to come from every goddamn direction now. Even worse, the whispers have started to call my name. The rest of the team is staying away from me. I don't want to die. Next day, they asked me about my daughter and my wife. They asked me if I missed them, and if I'm strong enough to see them again. I've tried to respond, but they don't reply. I don't know what the fuck they want from me. I screamed at the fucking sky for hours. They never responded. I've personally flipped through the captain's log, but there's absolutely nothing here to indicate the captain or the crew had anything to do with this. The final log puts the crew on a mission to investigate pirate attacks in the East Indian Ocean with good conditions. It's always nice to know what you're looking for. It's always nice to know what you're looking for had all the answers. I have placed myself against the main mast with the log in my hands. I hope the Foundation learned something. I hope our deaths expanded that scientific horizon. God damn you. God damn all of you. Whew, man, well. Shit. That about does it for this episode of Let's Read the SP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we'll be starting with Memetic Emu and making our way to Nematodes. This particular chunk, it looks like the whole damn thing is going to be about as painful as the first piece of this one was. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And I will see y'all in the next one. Later.